Chapter 1031. Following that, Meow Xiao Meow once again forgot about everything. She only closed her eyes, allowing her sweetheart to wantonly molest her body. It seems like when that hateful big hand reached into her clothes, Meow Xiao Meow finally couldn't help but let out a moan. But as soon as she opened her mouth, she immediately felt something slippery swiftly swimming into her mouth. It was like a naughty little fish swimming around in her mouth. Following that, her little fragrant tongue also seemed to have been lured out by that slippery thing. An unprecedented, ecstatic and strange feeling immediately invaded her whole body. Meow Xiao Meow only felt that her soul had been shaken, and in an instant, she was completely lost in that mysterious and indescribable wonderful state. She only felt that her soul was floating, as if she had ascended to the realm of immortals, as if she was intoxicated, as if she was in a fairy dream. The sky was still covered by dark clouds, the dark pressure was pressing down on the city, the wind was raging, the rain was pouring down, the thunder was earth-shattering, and the lightning was linked to the vast sky and the earth, continuously descending without a break. The entire heaven and earth were all trembling under the terrifying power of the heavenly tribulation. But at the center of the heavenly tribulation, there was a young man and woman, there, immersed in love and kissing, forgetting about everything else. They were so focused, the loud sounds in the sky and the violent tremors on the ground didn't seem to be able to disturb them in the slightest. After a long time, Jun Moxie slowly raised his head. Below him, Meow Xiao Meow's delicate face was red as if she was drunk. Both of her eyes were tightly shut, and her long eyelashes fluttered from time to time. Her delicate nose was slightly moving, and her tender red lips were like a delicate cherry, bright red and alluring. She lay motionlessly under her sweetheart's majestic body, her towering breasts were violently heaving up and down, and the perfect curves of her body were completely covered by that man's majestic body. I don't know what he's going to do next. What should I do? Meow Xiao Meow closed her eyes, nervously imagining things, completely forgetting where she was. At this moment, Meow Xiao Meow suddenly felt that her ears were a little itchy. Then, a gentle voice sounded in her ears. The sky is the tent, the earth is the bed, the wind is the food, the rain is the wine, the cloud is the wedding, the fog is the witness, the thunder is the betrothal gift, and the lightning is the matchmaker. Meow Xiao Meow, are you willing to be my woman in this life? Meow Xiao Meow's eyes were still tightly shut, but she clearly heard the question. She didn't even think before nodding her head. I'm willing to be your woman for the rest of my life. Meow Xiao Meow's voice was as soft as a mosquito, but her tone was resolute and decisive. For the rest of my life, to be my woman. You don't have to be my woman for the rest of my life. You only have this life, until the end of time. Jun Moxie smiled lightly, then he leaned down again, wantonly tasting the sweetness of those delicate red lips. Jun Moxie said this sentence with his heart. To be his woman, there really wasn't a life for the rest of her life, because this life was enough to last until the end of time. The seas would dry up and the rocks would crumble. However, Meow Xiao Meow didn't understand all these, but she didn't need to understand it now, because her heart was already intoxicated. No matter what Jun Moxie said, she didn't have the ability to think anymore. Meow Xiao Meow moaned, her jade-like arms stretched out, and she forgot everything else as she hugged the man who was lying on top of her. This was the person who she depended on for the rest of her life, the happiness of her life. Wholeheartedly, she offered her everything. The wind howled, the rain fell, the thunder rumbled, the lightning flashed, the clouds floated, and the earth shook. All of these showed that the weather was extremely bad, but in Meow Xiao Meow's heart, she felt incomparably comfortable, full of warmth, full of the sweetness of love, because the sky was the tent, the earth was the bed, the wind was the delicacy, the rain was the wine, the clouds were the wedding, the fog was the witness, the thunder was the betrothal gift, and the lightning was the matchmaker. Which woman in this world would have such a day in her life? Meow Xiao Meow was satisfied, but also intoxicated. This place was filled with the lingering sweetness of love, but in the hall not far away, everyone was staring blankly at the terrifying heavenly tribulation in the distance, which continued to descend as if it didn't know what fatigue was. If a person's eyeballs could really pop out, then everyone's eyeballs would have fallen to the ground. And they wouldn't be able to pick them up, even the calmest person wouldn't be an exception. A second level Venerable's heavenly tribulation actually took such a long time. There must have been at least 500 to 600 lightning bolts. Wasn't this too ridiculous? Even a fourth level Venerable's heavenly tribulation wouldn't have this many. Furthermore, it wasn't this powerful. The lightning bolts that were stronger than the one before continued to descend, and the most recent one was a purple lightning bolt as thick as a vat. Every time a lightning bolt fell, the faces of those old fellows would twitch intensely. This level of heavenly tribulation had obviously exceeded the limit of what everyone present could endure. But the most ridiculous thing was that the other side was actually still holding on. At this moment, no one thought that Miao Xiao Miao still had any hope. The reason was that Miao Xiao Miao definitely wouldn't be able to survive this level of heavenly tribulation. If Miao Xiao Miao were to come into contact with this level of heavenly tribulation, she would immediately turn into ashes. Not to mention her, even the Holy Emperor would turn into ashes in an instant. Thus, the later heavenly tribulation definitely wasn't Miao Xiao Miao's heavenly tribulation. Only the ones at the beginning were. Miao Xiao Miao's heavenly tribulation must have been mixed together with the heavenly tribulation of a peerless expert. Otherwise, it was impossible for such a strange situation to occur. But who was the person undergoing the heavenly tribulation? No one would have guessed it. The person undergoing the heavenly tribulation was June Moxie. And it was that free and natural physique, great prodigy Mo. Of course, their guesses were not wrong. Right now, the heavenly tribulation was indeed the heavenly tribulation of two people, mixed together. And it wasn't just a single wave. The last time Miao Qingqing had transferred 1,000 years' worth of Yuan Qi to June Moxie, Miao Qingqing had also sensed that June Moxie did not achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation. And in truth, June Moxie's art of unlocking heaven's fortune had indeed not achieved a true breakthrough. However, the sudden increase of so much pure origin energy of heaven and earth in his body had caused the level of his profound qi to soar by several levels. And Dushao's main cultivation was not Xian Qi. Thus, Miao Qingqing did not understand. So much Xian Qi had been digested in June Moxie's meridians, and a portion of it had been directly used by the Hongjun Pagoda. That was why this lucky fellow did not explode. When Jun Dashao had completely digested the pure heaven-earth Yuan Qi and turned it into a golden liquid in his body, he slowly turned the golden liquid into a purple Qi. By the time Miao Xiao Miao broke through, the art of unlocking heaven's fortune in Jun Moxie's body had automatically completed the conversion process. Miao Xiao Miao's successful heavenly tribulation was something that was already set in stone. But when Jun Moxie arrived at the scene of the heavenly tribulation, his Xian Qi cultivation was like the bamboo shoots in the spring, rising continuously. Miao Qingqing's 1,000 years' worth of Xian Qi. This was not the strength of a gold Xian that had cultivated for 1,000 years. This was a terrifying strength that could shock the world. Jun Moxie had originally been at the peak of the third level of the Holy Emperor realm, in the awkward position of breaking through but not breaking through. This time, he had broken through to the fourth level of the Holy Emperor realm. But his ascension was far from over. He broke through the bottleneck of the first level of the Holy Emperor realm, reaching the first level of the Holy Venerable realm. Then he continued to climb, reaching the middle level, then the high level, then the peak, and finally he broke through the first level of the Holy Venerable realm, reaching the second level of the Holy Venerable realm. And this did not seem to be the end. Finally, he climbed all the way to the peak of the second level of the Holy Venerable realm before stopping. At this time, Miao Xiao Miao had just finished withstanding the seventh strike of her heavenly tribulation. The aura that Jun Moxie's Xian Qi had dissipated from the breakthrough had instantly affected the heavenly tribulation in the sky. Therefore, from the eighth strike onwards, it became a second level of the Holy Venerable who had suddenly intervened in Miao Xiao Miao's minor heavenly tribulation, triggering this shocking and terrifying heavenly tribulation. Moreover, this second level of the Holy Venerable did not just need to go through one heavenly tribulation. He had accumulated several heavenly tribulations and passed through them together. Once for the fourth level of the Holy Emperor, once for the first level of the Holy Venerable, once for the second level of the Holy Venerable, 3 super heavenly tribulations. When all of them were gathered together, how much energy would that be? Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the dark clouds in the sky raged for another 2 hours before finally dissipating helplessly. Just a moment ago, it was still raging with lightning and thunder, but in the blink of an eye, the sky had turned cloudless. It seemed like there wasn't even any wind, and a bright sun hung on the horizon. Only then did everyone realize that it was already afternoon. The sun was already leaning towards the west. "Let's go!" Miao Jingyun took the lead, and a long line of people followed behind him. Everyone hurriedly used their fastest speed, rushing towards the center of the heavenly tribulation. With the speed of these people, how fast was that? And the place that Miao Xiao Miao had chosen to undergo her heavenly tribulation was not too far from the Miao family. So in just a few breaths' time, everyone had already arrived at the scene. When they saw the scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This was the scene of the tribulation just now? From the looks of it, this place was originally a quiet little valley, right? Right now, it was a complete mess. The ground was filled with large pits, and all the plants in the valley had been struck down cleanly. Even the mountains on both sides had collapsed. In their memories, there used to be a small waterfall there. But now, that small waterfall had already turned into a small tattered cloth. Water flowed down from the top of the mountain, as if a child was taking a piss, and the center of the heavenly tribulation was completely empty. There were still the figures of Miao Xiao Miao and Imo Junyi there. Could it be that this pair of lovers had already been annihilated? This unfortunate, and yet most reasonable, thought came to everyone's mind. Chapter 1032. No one dared to voice out that ominous guess, even though everyone was well aware of it in their hearts. Search. Miao Jingyun's face was dark, and the rims of his eyes were a little red. Hugging onto his last shred of hope, he waved his hand and gave the order. Everyone immediately spread out with a whoosh. In an instant, they'd already searched the area within 100 li radius, but there was nothing to be found. Under the cover of such a terrifying heavenly lightning, even the beasts and birds in the vicinity had long fled. After searching for half a day, they actually couldn't find any signs of living beings? Could it be that those 2 people had already been turned into ashes in that terrifying heavenly tribulation? Although everyone had this thought in their hearts, when they saw the murderous look on Miao Jingyun's face, no one dared to say it out loud. Miao Jingyun's gaze was like lightning as he scanned everyone's faces. When he saw the Qiu family head, Qiu Qingyun, he paused for a moment. His eyes were deep and expressionless. Qiu Qingyun only felt as if his heart had been smashed by a 10,000 gene hammer. His entire body trembled, and a layer of cold sweat appeared on his back. "My precious grandson, you're simply a troublemaker, This time, your grandfather is going to die because of you. Fuck, look at what you've done, It's no longer just your matter now. Even the entire Qiu family will be implicated because of today's matter." Old Master Qiu Qingyun wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This was truly being shot while lying down. Everything could only be blamed on that useless and unlucky grandson of his, Of all people, you just had to do it to Imo Junyi. And you even had to provoke him time and time again. Now, with this one act of yours, the free and natural physique prodigy that only appears once in 10,000 years was turned into ashes, and it even involved the most doted precious granddaughter of the Misty Mansion Manor head. The most unfortunate thing was that all of this happened on the day of the Misty Mansion Manor head's 500th birthday, and also on the day of his granddaughter's engagement. This time, it was a red and white affair. A happy occasion had turned into a funeral. If this debt was not placed on the Qiu family, who else could it be placed on? How unlucky can our Qiu family be? My son, what kind of child did you and your wife give birth to? Even if black smoke was rising from the graves of 8 generations of ancestors, it shouldn't have given birth to such an unlucky god. Qiu Qingyun wanted to cry, but no tears came out. The rest of the people looked at the Qiu family head with gloating eyes. Who asked you to be so arrogant? Motherfucker, he actually wanted to show off in front of us by making a miniature 1,000-year-old longevity pine. Now, he's making a fool of himself, isn't he? There wasn't even the slightest sign of happiness and longevity. Instead, it was the sound of the death knell. Apart from ringing for others, it was also ringing for himself. Brother Gu. Seeing Miao Jingyun turn around and leave without a word, Chiu Qingyun hurriedly looked around for reinforcements. First, he sent out a distress signal to Gu Yunyang. Everyone knew that Gu Yunyang had a lot of face in front of the manor head. Furthermore, he was also the one who had the most authority. Asking for his help might be able to appease some of the manor head's anger. This old man will go back and take a look. I wonder what's going on. When Gu Yunyang heard Chiu Qingyun calling out to him, his entire body trembled. Pretending not to have heard, he turned around and disappeared without a trace. Only when he was out of sight did Gu Yunyang finally have the time to wipe away the cold sweat on his forehead. Fuck, it's better to let your fellow Taoist die than me. Your Chiu family is destined to be unlucky this time. If I say anything, who knows, I might drag my Gu family down with me. Of the 36 stratagems, it's best to flee. Pretending to be deaf and mute is the way to conduct oneself. It seemed like it was not only Gu Yunyang. Whenever Chiu Qingyun looked at someone, that person would immediately flee for his life. In the end, he was the only one left standing on the hillside. Even the Zhan family patriarch Zhan Wuyun had fled. Looking at the empty area, Chiu Qingyun sighed with endless resentment. All of a sudden, he cursed loudly in an uncontrollable rage. Chiu Peng, you damned beast! Little bastard! You're such a reckless prodigal! You're the jinx that loses the light of the sun and moon. Hey, this old man is truly angered to death. One had to say, this Chiu family patriarch's cursing was really quite creative. A few old fellows who had walked far away heard it. Although their hearts were extremely heavy, they still could not help but want to laugh. No one could find Jun Moxie and Miao Xiao Miao. Then, where did the two of them go? The terrifying lightning tribulation had already dissipated, but the two of them were still entangled on the ground. Miao Xiao Miao could practically feel her divine sense rejoicing, her soul singing. She had long forgotten where she was. When she opened her eyes again, she realized that the lightning tribulation that caused all cultivators to tremble in fear had already disappeared. The surroundings were completely peaceful and tranquil. The surroundings were indeed very peaceful, but there was only chaos in front of her eyes. It was not peaceful at all. But in young Miss Miao's heart, this place was the most peaceful paradise in her life. The heavenly tribulation has passed? Miao Xiao Miao blinked her beautiful eyes in confusion as she asked. Jun Moxie laughed in his heart. Looks like this lass is so muddle-headed that she actually doesn't remember anything. So engrossed, how would I know? I've also not undergone the heavenly tribulation. But I think it should have passed. Isn't the sky already clear again? Jun Dashao snickered. Looks like it was quite beneficial for him to act young. His strength was too low, it was only natural that he didn't know. Quick, get up quickly, you're so heavy. Miao Xiao Miao, who had completely regained her senses, instantly saw the situation around her clearly. She no longer had the thought of experiencing peace and tranquility. She hurriedly pushed away Jun Dashao, who was still crawling on her body. She stood up in a flurry and started to tidy up her clothes. However, under the ravaging of the storm and the rolling on the ground for so long, Miao Xiao Miao's clothes were already covered with mud. Moreover, during the heavenly tribulation, almost half of Miao Xiao Miao's clothes had already been torn apart, leaving her naked. How can I face others like this? Miao Xiao Miao almost cried out. She knew that after the heavenly tribulation, her grandfather and the others would definitely come to check on her. At that time, there would definitely be more than one person. It was highly possible that there would be hundreds of people. How could a young lady like her face like this? A woman might not be afraid of death, but she would definitely be afraid of her ugly appearance. This was probably the so-called love beauty to death. She then looked at her body. Half of her breasts were exposed. Half of her snow-white thighs were exposed, and there was a lot of mud on them. The contrast of the two made the white look whiter and the black look darker. Her originally beautiful black hair had become a mess. Miss Miao still didn't know that her beautiful face had become a dirty cat. Since you've chosen to undergo the heavenly tribulation here, You must be very familiar with the environment here. Are there any hidden places nearby? Places with water? You can go back after you wash up. June Moxie suggested. Of course, his eyes were definitely not idle at this time. They were rolling around Meow Xiao Meow's almost naked body. He was eating his ice cream, and his heart was filled with satisfaction. Usually this girl was so skinny. He didn't expect her to be so voluptuous. Her curves were excessively protruding, and her curves were frighteningly concave. It was simply the legendary devil's figure. Meow Xiao Meow covered her chest with one hand. She didn't have time to argue with him. She said, "There's a pool over there. There's a hidden cave beside it. I'm just not sure if it was destroyed in the heavenly tribulation." Meow Xiao Meow, who grew up in Misty Mansion, was naturally very familiar with the terrain. After looking around, she immediately said, "I don't think it was destroyed. Let's hurry over." June Moxie picked her up and walked away. After his divine sense was upgraded, he could sense that a large group of people was already rushing over. As for whether the cave was destroyed or not, it was not important at all. Even if it was destroyed, he could use the power of earth and water to create another one. As for why he was in such a rush, it was very simple. Meow Xiao Meow's current appearance was not something that could be allowed to be seen by others. Young Master June would definitely get jealous. No matter how he looked at his own woman, it was only right and proper. But if it was seen by others, he would definitely suffer a huge loss. Quickly find a place. Put me down, let me go by myself. Meow Xiao Meow protested symbolically out of a woman's modesty and self-esteem. However, she curled up her whole body in June Moxie's arms. In fact, she didn't have any intention of struggling at all. It seemed that Aich had already come out, so what was there to worry about? With a swoosh, June Daxiao and Meow Xiao Meow disappeared from the open space. Meow Xiao Meow's face was completely hidden in Daxiao's arms. Her eyes were closed, so naturally, she didn't notice anything. Now, the two of them were walking in the void, completely invisible. No one could see them. After turning around the valley, there was indeed an unusually clear pool in front of them. On the mountain wall above the pool, there was a big cave. It wasn't destroyed by the lightning tribulation just now, so they didn't have to use the power of earth and water, and it was even more flawless. As June Moxie flew, tree branches flew out from his hands and accurately inserted into the open space around the pool. It seemed like he threw them randomly, but in fact, they were intricate and well arranged. When he entered the cave with Meow Xiao Meow in his arms, the pool and the cave on the mountain wall had mysteriously disappeared. If someone were to come here, they would only see a piece of empty land, a small disorienting formation. This formation didn't have much use. It was just a great camouflage so that no one could discover it. The moment she saw the clear spring water, Meow Xiao Meow felt even more uncomfortable. Her entire body was wrinkled and uncomfortable. She cheered and struggled out of June Moxie's arms. When she was about to jump into the water, she suddenly stopped and turned her head with a red face. "What are you going to do?" "What am I going to do?" "What do you mean, what am I going to do?" June Moxie was startled, but he immediately understood that this girl must be shy. He pretended to be confused and said, "What else can I do? You're dirty, but how can I be clean? Of course, I have to wash myself. I'm not handsome and I look sloppy. Who would like me? But..." Meow Xiao Meow bit her red lips and stamped her feet. Her face was red, and she couldn't say a word. "But what? Why do you sound so strange?" June Moxie asked deliberately. "But there's only one pool here." Meow Xiao Meow blushed and rolled her eyes at him. Chapter 1033. Who wants to take turns scrubbing your back? Meow Xiao Meow immediately realized that she had said something wrong and hurriedly added, "What do you mean you don't mind? Who wants to wash with you?" "I mind very much." "I don't mind. Why would you mind? At most, I'll help you scrub your back first, okay?" June Daxiao seemed to be addicted to teasing her. "Okay my ass, only I can wash. How can you do it with me?" Meow Xiao Meow was at a loss for words. Daxiao was also covered in mud. It didn't seem right not to let him wash, but, okay. Seeing that Meow Xiao Meow was really anxious, June Moxie rolled his eyes and said, "How about this? Since you're shy, I'll set up a wooden frame in this cave and put my clothes on it to block your view. I'll wash after you're done, okay? But how can you guarantee that you won't peek?" Meow Xiao Meow twisted her fingers, feeling very conflicted. "I swear on my character, I won't peek. Even if you do, I won't." June Moxie pointed to the sky and swore. At the same time, he asked himself in his heart, character? Do I really have such a thing as character? June Moxie quickly moved a few stones, broke a few branches, and casually set up a simple wooden frame. Then he took off his long gown and placed it on top of the frame. With a few pieces of clothing on top of each other, the inside and outside of the room were completely separated from the outside by a single layer of clothing. Meow Xiao Meow relaxed a little, but she was still very shy. If this guy peeks, there's nothing I can do about it. If he peeks, so be it. I'll be his sooner or later. But Jun Yi is a refined and talented gentleman. He probably won't do that kind of thing. Meow Xiao Meow comforted herself. She had to say, a certain someone gave Meow Xiao Meow a really good impression. Only God knew, not only was this guy not a gentleman, even using the word hooligans to describe him was a glorification. You don't peek. If you peek, you're a beast. Meow Xiao Meow hesitated. She slowly came to the water and scrubbed her arms. At the same time, she peeped at the cave above from the corner of her eyes. She saw that the white shirt dyed black by the mud had not moved at all. It seemed that June Moxie really didn't peep when he said he wouldn't peep. Only then did she feel relieved. But at the same time, a strange thought arose in his mind. Why didn't he peek? Am I so unattractive? Therefore, he actually felt a little lost. You're such a gentleman. You're worse than a beast. Meow Xiao Meow clenched her teeth and thought bitterly. Women seem to be this contradictory. First of all, she would do everything possible to prevent you from peeking. But if you really didn't peek, she would be dissatisfied. But if you peeked, she would be even more dissatisfied. She might even get angry and try to kill herself. What a contradiction. What a dilemma. Meow Xiao Meow was still lost in her thoughts when she heard young Master June's voice from behind the clothes rack. Quickly take off your clothes and wash them first. Throw them up after you're done, and I'll dry them for you. Otherwise, you won't be able to go back later. You can wash your body while you're drying the clothes. A strange smile appeared on June Moxie's face as he spoke. Young Master June had clothes in the Hongjun Pagoda, but at a time like this, he naturally wouldn't take them out. Which man wouldn't want to enjoy a good show to feast his eyes on? Meow Xiao Meow agreed. She felt that great prodigy Mo's suggestion was very reasonable. She bit her lips and looked at the unmoving gown. She reached out to unbutton her dress. She had only unbuttoned one when she seemed to have thought of something. Her face turned red and she hurriedly slipped into the water, leaving only her head above water. She took off her clothes in the water and washed them. Then, she stretched out her hand and accurately threw them into the curtain. Hearing the scream from inside, Meow Xiao Meow pursed her lips and smiled. Suddenly, she was in a daze. The clothes had been thrown out, but what should she do after she washed them? This bastard! He actually used such a trick to take advantage of me. In a split second, Meow Xiao Meow submerged her body in the water and fell into a state of panic. Was she going to walk up naked and put on her clothes? It had to be said that the impression that Jun Dashao gave to Meow Xiao Meow was too good. Meow Xiao Meow didn't doubt his words at all. She didn't expect that this guy would have such a bad heart. Now that her clothes were gone and she was still naked in the water, this time, he really didn't know what to do. Meow Xiao Meow subconsciously washed her body. She frowned as she thought of a solution. After an unknown amount of time, her body was already clean, but she was still at her wit's end. She unconsciously glanced in that direction. Suddenly, her small mouth opened wide and her eyeballs almost popped out. On the shore, a young man wearing only a pair of shorts was sitting on a rock on the shore with his bare legs stretched out. His eyes were fixed on her body, and the corner of his mouth hung a sparkling, what was it? Why did you come down? What are you looking at? Quickly close your eyes. Meow Xiao Meow was on the verge of tears. She hugged her chest as her entire body sank into the water, almost burying her head in as well. Only her eyes were visible, and she was both embarrassed and anxious. Her heart was in a mess, but there was a strange feeling in her heart that she couldn't explain. Didn't you say that you wouldn't peek? How can you not keep your words? Why did you take off your clothes? Meow Xiao Meow blushed and said angrily. She couldn't stamp her feet in the water. Otherwise, Meow Xiao Meow's little feet would definitely hurt. I wasn't peeking. I was clearly looking at him openly. Jun Emosia shamelessly opened his mouth and looked at the perfect figure in the water. Then he laughed mischievously and said, "What's with your eyes? Why did I take off my clothes? Don't I still have a pair of pants?" Meow Xiao Meow was angry. She was extremely shy. She slowly moved her body in the water towards a distance. Then she heard a splash. Meow Xiao Meow screamed. She looked back and saw that the shameless person had jumped into the water and was swimming towards her. He said while swimming, I'm so dirty. I'm coming down to take a bath. Actually, the pool is so big. Not to mention 2 people, it's enough for 10 people. I think you're almost done. You won't mind now, right? I won't mind, right? I mind very much. I mind very much. Meow Xiao Meow looked at this shameless person dumbfounded. She was speechless. Don't come over. Don't come over. Meow Xiao Meow kept retreating in panic. At this moment, she was so scared that she completely forgot that she was a few times stronger than this lecher in front of her. What did you say? Louder, I can't hear you. Forget it, I'll be able to hear you when I'm a little closer. Jun Moxie shouted with a perplexed face, as if he really couldn't hear clearly. Are you calling me? Why are you calling me over? As he spoke, he slid over like a fish. This fellow, the 2 of them were only less than 2 zhang apart. He actually had the cheek to shout that he couldn't hear clearly. Even if it was a distance of 2,000 zhang, he would still be able to hear clearly, and you're still calling me over for what? You've touched and seen, what else can you do? Meow Xiao Meow was so embarrassed that her whole body was burning. She was a virgin. When had she ever experienced such an embarrassing situation? Panicking, he continued to retreat, but unexpectedly, he tripped on a stone under the water and fell into the water. Caught off guard and flustered, a dignified 2nd-level venerable actually choked on a mouthful of water. Little girl, are you all right? Miss Meow, don't worry, I'm here to save you. Jun Dashao shouted concernedly and anxiously. He instantly sped up and reached Meow Xiao Meow's side. He reached out and hugged this perfect and delicate body tightly into his arms. His hands instantly became naughty as he shouted, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Are you hurt here? Are you not hurt here? What about here? Luckily, there's no injury here. And here. At this moment, Meow Xiao Meow's whole body went limp. She widened her beautiful big eyes and looked at a certain shameless fellow who was in close contact with her. She couldn't say a single word. There's actually such a person in this world. And he actually came to save me. This person's skin is too thick. Little girl, why aren't you saying anything? What's wrong? To think that this fellow was still shouting with a face full of surprise and worry. Could it be that you choked on water and fainted? Oh no, that requires artificial respiration. It's all right, I've learned it before. He didn't care whether Meow Xiao Meow knew what artificial respiration was or not. After finding a dignified excuse for himself, he immediately covered her delicate red lips with his big mouth. Meow Xiao Meow was only momentarily flustered. She was completely fine. Why would there be any need for artificial respiration? This fellow was just taking advantage of the situation to find an excuse to take advantage of her. Even if something really happened, everything would be fine once the mystical qi entered her body. Besides, what did he mean by fainting? Her eyes were still wide open. Meow Xiao Meow's beautiful eyes instantly widened to the maximum. She used both her hands to push him a few times. However, both of their bodies were tightly pressed together. How could she exert any strength to push him away? Miss Meow instantly felt the fiery heat coming from his body and the mellow masculine scent. Her body couldn't help but become softer and softer. Suddenly, she remembered what she had said earlier. June, after this, I'll be your woman. Chapter 1034. Thinking of this, Meow Xiao Meow felt even more powerless. She closed her eyes tightly, but she didn't realize that she was already panting. "Oh, your breathing is unstable. Why is your face so red?" This is the reaction of someone choking on water. "Oh, it seems very serious." Jun Emosia continued to wreak havoc as he spouted nonsense. He came up with some strange and fallacious reasoning. In any case, there was no end to this sea. Meow Xiao Meow felt dizzy. She felt more and more powerless. Meow Xiao Meow never imagined that as the little princess of Misty Mansion, a level 2 venerable, the most beautiful woman in Misty Mansion, she would never have imagined that she would be in the water, but at this time, she had already lost all consciousness. The water rippled. After a long time, it finally calmed down. "You're so bad." A soft moan. Someone was surprised. "Miss Meow, you're fine?" "I was so worried." Sigh. "I'm so tired to save you." "You did it to save me? Looks like I really need to thank you." The beauty's face turned red. She pinched the soft flesh on someone's waist and twisted it. Ouch. A miserable howl. This was the ultimate move that all women used, and it was self-taught. It could be said that every strike would hit its target, and every strike would cause a howl. It was truly sharp. "You lecture we're already like this? You still want to call me Miss Meow? What should I call you if not Miss Meow?" "Mother and father call me Meow Meow, Meow Meow, Meow Meow, Meow Meow, Meow Meow." Someone smacked his lips. "What a nice name." "What are you doing?" "Little beauty. We should celebrate for such a nice name. Come, let me dote on you a few more times." "No." Hee. "Little beauty, it's useless even if you shout until your throat is hoarse." When the two finally walked out of the small valley, only half of the sun's face could be seen. An entire afternoon had already passed. Meow Xiao Meow snuggled up to Jun Moxie. Her face was flushed, and the corners of her eyes were shrouded in an indescribable radiance. She was filled with the charm of a lazy young married woman. She was really flirtatious. She only felt that her entire body was still devoid of strength. That torrential rain of memories was still lingering in her body. Thinking back to everything that had happened this afternoon, Meow Xiao Meow felt so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. "Since when did I become slutty?" Meow Xiao Meow couldn't help but feel embarrassed when she thought of the hot scene just now. It's all this guy's fault. Meow Xiao Meow looked at the person beside her angrily. "He's not worse than a beast. He's a beast, even more of a beast than a beast." Even now, Meow Xiao Meow was still afraid of that endless demand. Jun Duxiao held the beauty in his arms complacently. His face was full of the expression of a cat who had succeeded in stealing a fish. "It's so comfortable. Strictly speaking, this is the second time in this life. The last time was because I was drugged with an aphrodisiac, and I couldn't remember anything at all. This time, I'm really showing off my masculinity." Young Master Jun looked at the beauty beside him and felt a tinge of longing for more. Thinking about the delicate body covered by the clothes, young Master Jun almost wanted to pull this beauty back to reminisce a few more times, but it seemed that they couldn't do it now. After calculating the time, the two of them had already spent a lot of time outside. The people at Misty Mansion must have been worried sick. It was better to go back as soon as possible and let them feel at ease first. When the two of them appeared at the gate of Meow Mansion, the eyes of the guards at the gate almost popped out of their sockets. There was no other reason other than the fact that it was too shocking. Although the news of their deaths had yet to be announced, and a large number of people were still searching for them, everyone knew that the two of them were definitely done for. Moreover, it was the kind of tragic death where not even their bones were left, and their ashes scattered and scattered. But now, they actually appeared in front of them, alive and well. Damn it. The originally noisy hall seemed to have fallen into a deathly silence. The group of old fellows were all crestfallen. They hadn't eaten anything since noon. At this time, who would still have the mood to eat? As for the main culprit of this incident, young Master Chiu Peng, he was directly beaten up by this Holy Emperor Bai Qi Feng personally. Holy Emperor Bai did not care about his status anymore. His fists rained down like a torrential storm, vicious and merciless. No one dared to stop him. In just the blink of an eye, Chiu Peng's head had turned into a pig's head, and he was carried back half dead. Although Chiu Qingyun was dissatisfied, he did not dare to say it out loud at this critical moment. Not only could he not stop him, he even had to clap his hands in glee at the side. Those who did not know would think that this old man had some kind of irreconcilable enmity with that pig-headed man. Old Master Chiu also had no choice but to do so. Many old fellows were rubbing their fists and palms together. Any slight mishap would ignite the flames of war. Among them, the two Saint Venerables, Miao Dao and Miao Jian, glared fiercely at the Chiu family head who had a fawning smile on his face. From the looks of it, as long as he dared to say a word that was not pleasing to the ears, they would immediately go up and beat him up, or even kill their way into the Chiu family. Most of the old fellows were feeling sorry for great prodigy Mo, the future pillar of the Misty Mansion. But Miao Dao and Miao Jian were even more sorrowful for Miao Xiaomiao. These two old fellows doted on Miao Xiaomiao to the extreme, even more than Miao Jingyun. Now that they had met with such a tragedy, it was already a miracle that they did not kill her immediately. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, the Miao family's housekeeper braced himself and came up to ask if they wanted to serve dinner. However, he was directly chased out by Miao Dao and scolded to his face. Eat your dead head. You only know how to eat your bird. These were the words of this Saint Venerable. The atmosphere in the deathly silent hall grew increasingly heavy. Without Miao Jingyun saying anything, it seemed like no one dared to leave. Just at this time, a commotion broke out at the entrance. Following that, a figure walked in slowly. Everyone was in a bad mood, and all of them looked over angrily. Following that, all of them widened their eyes. What was going on? Could it be that they had really seen a ghost? At this moment, Miao Jingyun's bearing as a manor lord had completely disappeared. His eyes were wide open, and his mouth was agape as he looked at the person who had walked in. He was so happy that he almost fainted. That person who had walked in was dressed in clean clothes and had a radiant smile on his face. There was an indescribable sense of joy emanating from him. Who else could it be other than great prodigy Mo Junyi? With a loud bang, Chao Guofeng stood up in a daze. You brat didn't die? Where's Xiao Miao? Miao Huanyu walked over hurriedly. In his entire life, he had always been calm and elegant. He had never been in such a rush before. Xiao Miao dirted her clothes when she went through the heavenly tribulation, so she went back to change first. She'll be back in a while. Jun Moxie rubbed his nose as he looked at this Miao Huanyu who could be considered as his father-in-law. He felt a little uncomfortable. Just now, he'd eaten the other party's daughter, and a few times at that, and then again, now that he'd eaten everything clean, he would definitely feel a little uncomfortable in front of his father-in-law. Good. It's good that she's fine. Miao Huanyu laughed excitedly. His daughter was actually fine. This usually elegant and steady middle-aged man instantly felt his body brimming with energy. Quickly go and inform Madam that Xiao Miao has returned safely. She's fine. She's completely fine. So it turned out that Madame Miao could not withstand such a blow and had collapsed. Before he finished speaking, Miao Xiao Miao, who was dressed in white and had a veil over her face, slowly walked in. It seemed like she had no choice but to walk slowly. Miao Xiao Miao's body was currently rather unwell. As for why she was unwell, everyone knew. Miao Miao. More than 10 people actually shouted in unison, their voices filled with excitement. Jun Dashao rolled his eyes. This orderly shout of Miao Miao made Jun Dashao suddenly feel as if he'd walked into a cat's den. Everyone present was pleasantly surprised. A circle of people surrounded them and asked them all sorts of questions. Regarding the heavenly tribulation, Miao Xiao Miao was in a daze at that time. She simply did not know what had happened. Moreover, even if she had seen it, she would not have been able to explain it. She could only reluctantly explain it to everyone in a daze. As for Jun Dashao, he was even more skilled at pretending to be confused. He stared at them with perplexed eyes and made up a story. How could a gold Xian shrimp be able to answer such a profound question? As for why they'd arrived so late, this was a question that this group of old fellows did not ask. Ask what? Which one of these people was not a sly old fox? Which one of them did not have extremely sharp eyesight? When Meow Xiao Meow walked in, they immediately realized that something was wrong. Everything became clear. There was no need to ask. Just based on great prodigy Mo's infatuation, how could that last Xiao Miao not be touched? The two of them must have found a place to clean up after the heavenly tribulation and went to have sex. This matter was too obvious. Who wouldn't be able to guess it? At this time, if someone were to imitate a certain pig-headed person and ask a question, it was likely that they would really be attacked by everyone. As for the heavenly tribulation, everyone was already well aware. At that time, there must have been another powerful person who was coincidentally undergoing the heavenly tribulation nearby. Meow Xiao Meow was only accidentally affected by the other party. But when the other party started, Meow Xiao Meow's heavenly tribulation had already ended. Thus, she was able to pass through it without any mishaps. As for such a profound speculation, these two juniors who were involved in the situation naturally did not know. The old fellows all automatically came up with the most logical explanation in their hearts. In fact, this was the only explanation that could reasonably explain everything that had happened before their eyes. Otherwise, how could two 17- or 18-year-old youngsters attract such a powerful heavenly tribulation? Even ghosts would not believe it. Chapter 1035. Meow Meow, my ill-fated daughter. Madame Meow stumbled out and hugged Meow Xiao Meow, crying tears of joy. Mother and daughter hugged each other and burst into tears. After a long time, Madame Meow wiped her tears and walked to June Moxie. Her face was filled with sincere admiration and love as she said gently, "June Yi, Xiao Meow, from now on, I'll hand her over to you. She's been willful since she was young and spoiled, so she doesn't have any etiquette. Please bear with her." After this matter, Madame Meow had completely acknowledged this son-in-law. Right now, even if Meow Xiao Meow went back on her words, this mother-in-law would probably stand on June Dashao's side instead. In this world, which man would be willing to die for his woman? According to what Madame Meow knew, there wasn't a single one before this. Mo Junye's previous actions had truly made Madame Meow feel at ease. Handing her daughter's life to this young man was truly 100 times more assured. And he definitely couldn't bear to be wronged. He was willing to give up his life for his daughter, so how could he bear to bully her? June Moxie smiled awkwardly, not knowing what to say for a moment. Under such a caring gaze, this Lord Evil Monarch whose skin was thicker than the city walls actually blushed for the first time, looking like a shy little boy from the legends. That night, the Meow family held a huge banquet, and all the guests returned to the banquet. All of them drank until they were dead drunk. Only the Chiu family head, Chiu Qingyun, was a little unhappy. "You guys came back safely without any problems." But this old man's grandson was still beaten half to death by Qi Feng, and I don't even know how he's doing, but he only thought about it in his heart. As for saying it out loud, he wouldn't dare to do so even if he was given more guts. The most important thing was that June Moxie and Meow Xiao Meow had returned safely. He could also heave a sigh of relief. The safe return of these two little ancestors meant that the crisis of the Chiu family's collapse had been instantly eliminated by 80 to 90%. When he saw June Moxie come back, the happiest one was Chiu family's master. "My little ancestor, you're finally back. If you didn't come back, our Chiu family would have no way to live." That night, Li Xingyun and a group of young people surrounded June Moxie and poured him a lot of wine. This lucky guy had actually picked the first flower of Misty Mansion, and he had even picked it to his heart's content on the same day. If not him, who else would they pour wine on? Everyone found all kinds of reasons to take turns carrying wine cups and wine jars, starting a wheel war. Everyone felt that they were the god of wine, and everyone felt that they were the wine immortals. June Dashao's character was still very strong, and he did not go back on his words. It could be said that he did not refuse anyone. He drank bowl after bowl until his face was flushed red, and he was on the verge of collapsing. It was as if he would collapse at any moment, but he just did not collapse. This gave everyone a misconception. If he drank one more bowl, this guy would probably collapse. In addition to that, Meow Xiao Meow kept on anxiously persuading him, "Drink less, drink less." Looking at her, her heart was really aching. and she kept glaring at those fellows who were toasting him. With such an obvious piece of information being presented, everyone naturally understood. Looks like this free and natural physique's alcohol tolerance is not bad, but his alcohol tolerance is very ordinary. Therefore, everyone became even more excited, and the atmosphere became even more heated. They were even more enthusiastic in persuading others to drink, and they drank even more happily, bowl after bowl, jar after jar. The cycle repeated itself, taking turns. With a loud bang, the wine bowl in the hands of Meng Xianru, Meng Deshao, who drank the most ferociously, fell to the ground. His entire body also slid down the table softly, and he fell flat on his back. Following that, a loud snore rang out. The rest of the people weren't much better off than Meng Deshao. They were basically all drunk to the point that their tongues were swollen, but they didn't seem to mind at all, still fighting to be the first to drink. Some disappeared after drinking a bowl, while some tripped over the people at their feet and fell to the ground, unable to get up again, falling asleep. There were also some who drank too much and felt suffocated. They staggered to the toilet, but directly fell asleep while squatting in the toilet. At least no one followed in Fatty Tang's footsteps. It could be said that this was a great fortune amidst the misfortune. Finally, around young Master Jun's side, a large number of people fell one after another. All the young masters and young masters of the various aristocratic families were lying on the ground like dead dogs, snoring loudly. Their bodies were dripping with vegetable juices, and their faces reeked of alcohol. Jun Deshao's eyes were still blurry from drunkenness, and his face was flushed red. Only at the end, when he saw Miao Xiao Miao come over, did he hold a bowl of wine and giggle foolishly. With a splash, he poured the wine on the ground, and then leaned his head on the table. He also seemed to be drunk. Under the table, Meng Xianru was snoring with his mouth wide open. Half of young Master Jun's wine had entered his throat, and in his daze, he choked a little and actually managed to say, "Good wine. One more jug." Then, the snoring continued. Miao Xiao Miao helplessly looked at these drunkards in front of her, and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Finally, for the first time, she personally experienced how it felt when she saw her mother taking care of her drunk father. It was a feeling that was both funny and infuriating, as well as a sense of helplessness and helplessness. At this moment, Madame Miao also happened to be standing beside her daughter. Looking at these drunk youths, she sighed softly. "Miao Miao, do you know why these people are drunk?" Madame Miao said lightly. "Why?" Miao Xiao Miao asked in confusion. Being drunk meant that they drank too much. What else could it be for? Li Xingyun, Meng Xianru, Zhang Qiyun, these people have been with you since young. These youths, as well as Qiu Peng, Gu Feiyu, and Zhan Yushu, who unfortunately passed away. They have not taken a proper wife up until now, and their goal is none other than to wait for you. Madame Miao laughed bitterly. Now, you have been snatched away by an outsider in such a short period of time. To them, their dreams of more than 10 years have come to nothing in an instant. Gu Feiyu has become a cripple. Have you ever thought that although Emo Junyi had the upper hand that day, Gu Feiyu's cultivation is still much higher than Emo Junye's? How could he have suffered such serious internal injuries and become a cripple? Think about it. If you were not by his side at that time, would Gu Feiyu's ending still be the same? When the Zhan brothers set up the bet that day, they lost at the last moment. Of course, the main reason was that they were shocked by Emo Junye's unparalleled talent. But do you really not know Zhan Yushu's feelings for you? Not only Zhan Yushu, I even suspect that Zhan Qingfeng also has feelings for you, just that he has never shown it. And today's Qiu Peng, completely out of character, not hesitating to throw away his pure and elegant appearance, going against Emo Junyi without caring about the consequences, and finally angering by Qifeng, causing the Holy Emperor to lower his status, retaliating with his fists, and even ending up in such a pitiful state where almost everyone in the Misty Mansion wants to beat him up. Think about it, is Qiu Peng really such a reckless and foolish person who does not care about the consequences? Hearing Madame Miao's words, Miao Xiao Miao could not help but furrow her brows. She asked uncertainly, "Mother, you're saying they did it all for me? If not for you, who else could it be for?" Madame Miao laughed bitterly, looking at her still confused daughter. Sighing, she said, "Take these few people who are completely drunk right now. Do you think that they are really drunk? Could it be that they are not drunk? All pretending to be drunk? Then isn't their acting skills a little too good?" Miao Xiao Miao looked at the bunch of youths from the misty illusory manor lying all over the ground, unable to believe that these people were actually pretending to be drunk. Of course they are really drunk, but they are definitely not drunk because of alcohol. Madame Miao said meaningfully, "Li Xingyun is good at dancing, Meng Xianru is resourceful and full of schemes, and Zhang Qiyun is mature and steady. Which one of these three is not a talented and elegant young master? Ever since you were young, have you ever seen them lose their composure like this? Now, not only have they lost their composure, but they are also so drunk that they are in a complete mess. Yet, they did not circulate their Xian Qi to regain some consciousness. Why is that?" "Why?" Miao Xiao Miao asked in a daze. As the saying goes, a drunkenness dissolves 1,000 worries. Today, their dreams were shattered, and their hearts were filled with sorrow. Today's drunkenness is a farewell to the past. After getting drunk, it's a transformation for them. Madame Miao said softly, "But before this drunkenness, and during this drunkenness, they are still living in their dreams. So they are not willing to use Xian Qi to force out the alcohol. This is a pain that hurts their hearts. Other than getting drunk, they have no other way to vent it. Perhaps a commoner would choose to fight fiercely, or a warrior would choose to fight a bloody battle. But they can't, because in the end, they are the sons of aristocratic families, and they all carry their natural mission." Madame Miao suddenly looked at her daughter seriously. "I am telling you all this not to tell you about their infatuation with you. Because these infatuations have already become the past. I just want to tell you that sometimes, men are very bitter and depressed, and they will never say it out loud. When they are drunk, or when they are trying to heal the pain in their hearts. At this time, to them, anyone who disturbs them is very annoying, even their wives are no exception. And as a wife, you absolutely cannot insult, ridicule, or ignore them at this time. Only a wife who can take care of her man's body and mind in the most appropriate way can be considered a good wife." Miao Xiao Miao seemed to have understood something, and her beautiful eyes flashed with understanding. Chapter 1036. Seeing her father standing downstairs with a dark face, Miao Xiao Miao was so embarrassed that she couldn't show her face. Her face was red, and she didn't know what to do. June Moxie was also speechless towards this father-in-law. As an elder, what are you doing standing downstairs of a young man in the morning? Don't you know that this young master, who is so shy, can't stand it? Miao Xiao Miao was also very helpless. She naturally knew that today was a big day that happened once in 100 years. However, no matter how clear her memory was, it was a fact that her body didn't listen to her. She was really helpless. Last night, for almost the whole night, this guy actually didn't let her have any rest. For the whole night, this guy was like the waves of the sea, pounding on her endlessly and tirelessly. Miao Xiao Miao almost felt that her body was being tossed and turned. Even until now, she still felt sore all over her body. When she woke up this morning, she found her naked body lying on this man's body. Moreover, it seemed that she and this man were not only in close contact, but also in negative contact. He didn't seem to know how he fell asleep last night. He seemed to have lost his memory of everything. Only the bone-gnawing ecstasy that still existed in every inch of his muscles was still flaring up from time to time, lingering in his mind and lingering on endlessly. If it wasn't for June Moxie's reminder, Miao Xiao Miao almost couldn't get up. Too tired. Too sleepy. Too tired. This was not rest. It was more tiring than practicing martial arts for a day or working for a day. At a certain moment, Miao Xiao Miao even had a kind of enlightenment in her heart, which she didn't know if it could be counted as enlightenment. In this world, there was a reason for men to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Only one. But she really couldn't bear it. Even she, who was at the level of venerable, was like this. How could others support her? June Dashao stood up in high spirits. Miao Xiao Miao could forget, but June Dashao would never forget. With his strong self-control, even if he was 3 or 4 times more tired last night, he would still be able to wake up on time. Today was his biggest goal after entering the misty, illusory manor. He wondered what kind of surprise the spiritual herbal garden would bring him. While he was washing his face, June Emosie had blurted out a sentence. But this sentence had caused Miao Xiao Miao's ears to turn red every time she thought about it, and she felt so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. This, one day and one night, is really unforgettable. This sentence seemed very normal, but unfortunately, June Daxiao purposely dragged out a certain word. The usually calm and steady Miao Huanyu's face darkened as he brought his daughter and son-in-law to Miao Jingyun. Miao Jingyun only rolled his eyes and waved his hands. Let's go. This kind of matter that shouldn't have happened, but had already happened. As a grandfather, what was he supposed to say? If he continued to teach them a lesson, it would only delay the time. With Miao Jingyun in the lead, the group moved at the same time. Miao Dao carried Miao Xiao Miao, and Miao Jian carried Jun Moxie. The entire group was like a huge arrow, shooting into the dark skies. How fast was the speed of these people? In just a few dozen breaths' time, they had already arrived at the main palace of the Misty Mansion. Right now, in front of them was a huge stone wall. But to say that it was a stone wall was not very appropriate. Because, strictly speaking, it would be more accurate to say that it was a huge piece of jade. It was about 20 zhang long and wide, and it glowed with a bright light. One could even faintly see a 7-colored light swaying within it. The surface of the jade was covered with strange patterns. Apart from the above characteristics, this piece of jade also had another special characteristic. The entire piece of jade seemed to be transparent. From where everyone was standing, there seemed to be thousands of images within the jade. Floating clouds, towering pavilions, and countless graceful figures drifting about. It was as if the inside of this jade was connected to another world. From where everyone was standing, they could only see a small corner of this mysterious world. But if they went around the jade, there was only a huge mountain rock. There was nothing else. Not to mention the miraculous images he had seen before. Such a huge piece of jade, if it was placed in an auction in the Xian continent, no country would be able to buy it even if they used all their resources. And that price was only limited to the value of this piece of jade itself. This is a piece of heavenly Xian jade. It's a complete piece of heavenly Xian jade, not a single corner, not even a single fragment. It has not been damaged at all. Miao Xiao Miao stood beside Jun Moxie and said softly, and the most mysterious thing about this piece of jade is its indestructible property. No one can damage it. Even if 10 Saint Venerables work together, they would not be able to leave a single mark on this piece of jade. It's really a good thing. Jun Moxie's eyes lit up. This piece of heavenly Xian jade is the most precious thing in the entire Misty Mansion. But its preciousness is not because of its indestructible property or the fact that it contains images. If that was the case, it would at most be a rare plaything. Miao Xiao Miao said softly, its true value lies in the fact that this piece of jade is the only entrance to the spiritual herbal gardens. At this moment, Miao Huanyu stood alone in front of that huge piece of heavenly Xian jade, silently activating some kind of indescribable energy within his body, as if he was communicating with that huge piece of jade. On the surface of the mysterious heavenly jade, those originally indistinct patterns actually began to slowly move. From slow to fast, they even began to rapidly revolve, gradually turning into a blurry mirage. In the end, they even turned into a magnificent white lights. To me, the most precious thing in the Misty Mansion is you, and only you. Jun Moxie smiled slightly and said, I've already obtained the most precious thing. You this person? Miao Xiao Miao's ears instantly turned red, embarrassed and happy, but she still stamped her feet coquettishly. I'm not a thing. Yes, you're not a thing. Jun Moxie laughed. How could he let go of such a great opportunity to tease her? You're the one who's not a thing. Miao Xiao Miao's eyes immediately widened in anger, and she angrily puffed up her cheeks. I'm ignoring you, you lecher. It's fine if you ignore me, this lecher, now. Jun Moxie moved closer to her ear and said in a low voice, just ignore me when you take off your clothes at night. That's right, I'm the real lecher at that time. Thoroughly embarrassed, Meow Xiao Meow covered her face with her hands, almost too embarrassed to see anyone. Xiao Man stamped her feet on the ground, and her pink neck almost drooped into her chest. She really didn't have the face to see anyone. Woo 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 woo, it's so embarrassing, this enemy, in such a solemn occasion, how could he still say anything even though others couldn't hear? Just at this moment, the jade disk of the heavenly Xian Jade suddenly shot out a ray of 7-colored light, and accompanying it was a burst of fragrant aroma. This kind of aroma was definitely not the same as any kind of aroma that existed in the mortal world. It made one feel as if they were walking on air, and the moment they smelled it, their bodies and minds were filled with joy. Then, a huge door suddenly appeared out of nowhere. On the right side of the door, a line of words appeared. Unparalleled guest of the 9 nether heavens and earth, I'm number 1 in the mortal world. Up to the heavens and down to the earth with my command, sweeping through the rain and wind as I please. 28 words. Every single one of them seemed as if they were about to break through the wall and fly out, like a bolt of lightning, lighting up everyone's heart. Every single one of these words carried a kind of domineering aura that shook the heavens and earth, looking down on the world with disdain, as if they were the only one in the world. Just by looking at these 28 words, one could imagine what kind of hero and what kind of unparalleled hero the person who wrote these 28 words must be. The 9 nether first young master. Apart from the 9 nether first young master, there really wasn't anyone else in the history of time who had such big words. And there wasn't anyone else who had the ability to write such words. Such arrogance. But it was so arrogant that it made one's heart involuntarily feel respect. Such arrogance. But it was so arrogant that it made one's heart beat faster. These 28 words appeared for a full quarter of an hour before slowly disappearing. In the process of the words disappearing, a neatly arranged stone path slowly appeared, leading into the distance without an end. As if following this path, one would be able to walk until the end of time. And on both sides of the stone path, from blurry to clear, an endless forest of trees and forests appeared. When all of this was completely visible, everyone present would be able to enter the spiritual herbal gardens as if they were walking on a real path. This had been the practice for 10,000 years. It had never changed, and there had never been any abnormalities. Everyone was kneeling down devoutly and waiting patiently. But right at this moment, an exception that had never happened in 10,000 years appeared today. Just as those 28 words were about to completely disappear, a golden light suddenly flashed, and a few words of the same style suddenly appeared. After entering, if you dare to cause trouble, this old man will castrate you. Seeing these words, all the old fellows were petrified at the same time. What's going on? Why is this newly added content so vulgar? Why would it appear on this solemn jade wall? Also, there wasn't such a thing in the past, but the handwriting was clearly the 9 nether first young masters. It was completely different from the previous 28 words. Also, this sentence was obviously referring to someone. But who was it meant for? Jun Dashao only felt his scalp buzzing, and a dangerous cold wind seemed to blow at his crotch. Among everyone present, only he understood the meaning of this sentence. This sentence was obviously meant for him. The 9 nether first young master had left this stern warning for him 10,000 years ago. This method of the 9 nether first young master was not unfamiliar to Jun Dashao. He had already experienced it when he obtained the innate 5 elements essence force, so he was already used to it. But the content of the last sentence. Damn it, how did I cause trouble? Didn't I just want a tree from you? It's just a few fruits. Is there a need to be so serious after 10,000 years? To actually give a warning 10,000 years in advance. You're really looking down on this young master's self-control. Am I that kind of person who only sees money? This time, the golden words only flashed for a moment before disappearing. But everyone's hearts grew heavy. Since the old ancestor had given such a stern warning, it was definitely not a joke. After entering this time, they must not cause any trouble at all. It was better to have less, or even nothing, than to act recklessly. With heavy hearts, the group finally entered the spiritual herbal gardens. Walking along the stone steps, when they reached a fork in the road, Miao Jingyun immediately gave the order to split into 3 groups to pick the herbs. He also emphasized that they must gather back here before the time limit. Chapter 1037. From Miao Huanyu's warning, Jun Dashao finally understood the reason why there could only be one candidate. It was because it was best to walk alone on this path. 2 was fine, 3 was also fine, but there could never be more than 3 people. Once the number of people exceeded this limit, they would never be able to see the rainbow holy tree. Of course, this limit of 3 people did not include the owner of the spiritual herbal garden. In other words, with Jun Moxie's current group, 1 person could still be added to it. But, ever since the holy tree rejected it, it never tried to add another person. Instead, only 1 person participated every time. This time, it was the first time in hundreds of years that Miao Huanyu was able to bring 2 people with him. Miao Huanyu was in the middle, Miao Xiaomiao was on the left, and Jun Moxie was on the right. Everything in this space was completely indistinguishable from the outside world. Stepping on the grass, the feeling of having one's feet firmly planted on the ground, and the fragrance of the wild grass that came from all around made Jun Mo feel that this world wasn't an illusion, but completely real. Not long after walking out, when he looked back, the clouds had already blocked the way back, and it was a vast expanse of whiteness, and he could not see the whereabouts of the people who came in with him at all. This is the territory of the holy tree. In the spiritual herbal garden, this could be said to be the most bizarre place. Miao Huanyu walked as he said slowly, "This grassland is vast and endless, but there is absolutely not a single stalk of spiritual medicine here. Because the holy tree does not allow it, spiritual medicine cannot grow." Jun Moxie and Miao Xiaomiao had long been curious. When they first came in, rare and precious spiritual medicine could be seen everywhere in the forest on both sides of the road. Why was it that they could not see a single one here, not even the most common spiritual seedlings and spiritual herbs? Now that they heard Miao Huanyu's words, the 2 finally understood that this barren land was all caused by the rainbow holy tree. The 2 looked at each other and thought, this rainbow holy tree seems to be a very possessive and selfish fellow. However, after careful consideration, Jun Moxie expressed his understanding. Just like some formidable Xian beasts, there were absolutely no other Xian beasts in the vicinity of its residence. Once other Xian beasts entered, it would surely cause a great battle. A spirit herb with dense spirit energy could similarly cause the surrounding plants to be unable to grow. It was just that this colorful holy tree was more domineering and covered a wider area. Suddenly, a wave of refreshing spiritual energy came from afar. Miao Huanyu's spirits rose, and he said, "We're here." The 2 of them looked up and saw that in the center of the prairie, where there was originally nothing, there was now a huge tree that could definitely be considered as huge. The diameter of this tree was at least 100 meters. Tall and straight, its body was covered in lush foliage, as if it was directly above the blue sky. The leaves of this huge tree were all in a strange 9-pointed shape, emitting different colors. At first glance, it was a normal dark green color, but at a second glance, it had already turned red, then black, then purple. The leaves of this tree were actually changing colors at any time and place. As the 3 of them approached, all the 9-pointed leaves of this rainbow holy tree actually flipped backwards at the same time, and the whole tree actually tilted backwards a little. It was like a towering giant, arrogantly looking at the little shrimp in front of it. Jun Dashao was instantly stunned, and his eyes widened. Fuck. A tree can actually be so arrogant, this is too human-like. It had to be said that a tree with a diameter of 100 meters. Jun Moxie had never seen such a tree in either of the 2 worlds. If it was chopped down, how many double beds could it make? The leaves rustled, and a clear message was transmitted. "Boys from Misty Mansion, you have come to visit the Lord Holy Tree again. What good things have you brought for this old man? Respected Lord Holy Tree, today is the day when Misty Mansion opens the spiritual herbal garden once every 100 years. In order to better take care of you, Lord Holy Tree, Misty Mansion has selected 2 young talents, and they have come to you to test their compatibility. Please, Lord Holy Tree, use your omniscient eyes to investigate, and determine the direction of the spiritual herbal garden for the next 1,000 years. Miao Huanyu bowed slightly and spoke to the tree with great respect. Jun Moxie blinked his eyes. What kind of situation is this? Is this a fairy tale? Can a tree really understand human language? Can it speak human language? Moreover, Miao Huanyu is so respectful to it. Can it understand? The leaves of the rainbow holy tree fluttered, and even the trunk swayed a few times at a speed visible to the naked eye. The three people present could clearly feel that the tree seemed to be in a very good mood, and it seemed to be very excited. Miao Huanyu was a little stunned. This has never happened before. Could it be that my respect made it so happy? But I used to say this before, and I've never seen it so happy. The leaves continued to rustle, and it seemed as if tens of thousands of people were shouting at the same time. Those two youngsters, take a step forward. Jun Moxie pursed his lips. Da Xiao had seen everything. This so-called shouting of tens of thousands of people was nothing more than the tree using its own unique frequency to cause all the leaves to vibrate at the same time, creating a sound effect. However, this already showed that this rainbow-colored holy tree did indeed have a consciousness, and it seemed to have quite a high level of intelligence. Jun Moxie rolled his eyes. Jun Moxie obeyed and took a step forward. Miao Xiao Miao followed beside him, but her expression was a little frightened. After all, Miao Xiao Miao had never seen such a supernatural thing before. As far as she knew, this holy tree in front of her was like a god. Suddenly, the leaves whistled sharply, and a voice formed by mental power shouted angrily, "Youngster! What's with that expression? How dare you show disrespect to the Lord Holy Tree? Do you know how big of a sin this is?" It turned out that each saw Jun Moxie twitching his mouth. When the holy tree was angry, the weather in the elixir garden changed instantly. Miao Huanyu secretly complained, "It seems that this rainbow-colored holy tree is going crazy again. It's like this for the past few times. One moment, it's happy, and the next moment, it's inexplicably angry. However, there's nothing we can do, and we can only retreat in dejection. This time is the same as the previous times. No one provoked him, but Heech still inexplicably got angry." Jun Moxie looked at the tree dumbfounded, watching it tremble violently, as if it was unable to contain its anger. "Get out! All of you, get out of here!" The tree suddenly roared with mental power. "I, the Lord Holy Tree, don't want to see you puny humans. Are you sick?" Jun Moxie scolded out of nowhere. When he came over, Jun Daxiao had already noticed that there wasn't even a single fruit on the tree, and he was a little angry. Looking around, although the space seemed endless, he couldn't see the second and third rainbow-colored holy tree that Miao Jingyun and Miao Huanyu had mentioned. Jun Daxiao was already starting to get angry, but this mere tree actually dared to scold the Lord Evil Monarch? This was truly intolerable. Furthermore, "You little brat, what did you say just now?" The rainbow-colored holy tree roared angrily. "What did I say? I said that you're sick." Jun Moxie did not care about the shocked faces of Miao Xiao Miao and Miao Huanyu as he roared. "I realized that those predecessors of the Misty Mansion have really spoiled you rotten. What's so great about you? Aren't you just a tree? You think you're so awesome just because you've lived for a few more years? With such a huge body, you can only bear 2 sets of holy fruits every year. Don't you feel ashamed? To think that you're still acting so smug here. If I were you, I would have found a crooked tree and hung myself long ago." "Oh right, you're a tree, so you can hang yourself. If you're a crooked tree, at least you look pretty straight. Why yeah? You little brat, your mouth is full of nonsense. You're really going to anger this Lord Holy Tree to death." The rainbow-colored holy tree's body swayed left and right, and the sky and earth shook. "Little brat, you're talking nonsense. This Lord Holy Tree will never forgive you." Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew. Under the rainbow-colored holy tree's tree, 2 roots as thick as dragons drilled out and approached Jun Moxie at lightning speed, wrapping around him. Then, with a bang, a big hole appeared in the middle of the rainbow-colored holy tree's trunk. The 2 roots wrapped around Jun Moxie and threw him into the hole. In the next moment, the tree's trunk closed up, leaving no gaps. The two roots returned to the ground, and the tree stopped swaying and the leaves stopped rustling. Everything was calm. This rainbow-colored holy tree actually ate Jun Dashao. Miao Xiao Miao moaned and almost fainted. Her face turned pale. Lord Holy Tree. Miao Huanyu was shocked. He's young and insensible. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to his level. Please be merciful. This little brat's mouth is full of nonsense and rude words. This Lord Holy Tree is not someone he can blaspheme as he pleases. If I don't teach him a lesson, what will happen to him in the future? The holy tree's leaves rustled. You don't have to worry. I just want to teach this little brat a lesson. I won't take his life. You two can leave for now. When I've taught this brat a lesson, I will let him out. Miao Huanyu was dumbfounded. Let him out just like that? Is this going to be a futile effort again? Outsiders are only allowed to enter this place once every 100 years. They'll leave as soon as they come in? Are they toying with me? Lord Holy Tree, please be merciful. Miao Xiao Miao begged. He's a good person. Can you not teach him a lesson? What are you talking about? Hurry up and get lost. The rainbow-colored holy tree seemed to be a little angry. Suddenly, the tree shook and a gust of wind blew again. In an instant, the sky turned dark and the earth fell into darkness. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers in front of them. Chapter 1038. Let's go back first. It's a waste of effort again. We'll have to wait for another 100 years. Miao Huanyu sighed helplessly. I'm not going back. I'll wait here, wait for him to come back. Miao Xiao Miao shook her head stubbornly. She stared at the spot where the rainbow holy tree used to be, her eyes filled with tears. Silly girl, how do you know where Junyi will come out from? The holy tree has always been unpredictable. It's completely unpredictable. Also, the Lord Holy Tree's concept of time is different from ours. Miao Huanyu didn't finish his sentence. How do you know he'll definitely come out? If he doesn't come out, won't you have to wait here for the rest of your life? I don't care, I'll wait here. I'll wait for 100 years, 1,000 years, I'll wait. If I can't wait until he comes out, I'll die here. Miao Xiao Miao insisted. Her expression was resolute, and her eyes didn't waver in the slightest. Miao Huanyu sighed helplessly. Inside the holy tree, Jun Moxie felt his vision darken for a moment, then brightened up. His entire body had been moved, and he was now inside the tree. This place, however, was an even more bizarre space. The air was filled with dense mist, and it emitted a faint seven-colored mist. A hazy fragrance drifted over. The ground below him was abnormally flat, but he couldn't see the specific color of the ground. There were many thin root-like things floating around him. Jun Moxie smiled, and sat down peacefully. He hadn't guessed wrong. The power of wood was indeed a kind of aura that all plants in the world welcomed. Or perhaps it shouldn't be said that they welcomed it. In fact, they were eager to get it. Jun Dashao's action of provoking the rainbow holy tree was just a way to fool others. When the rainbow holy tree first appeared, Jun Moxie had already activated the power of wood and released a trace of it from his palm. That was why the rainbow holy tree had started to sway at that time, and it had been shaking very violently. That was the inexplicable joy that the rainbow holy tree showed when it sensed the power of wood. It was not because Miao Huanyu thought that the holy tree had been flattered. Next, Jun Moxie used his divine sense to transmit a message. Do you want this thing? If you're interested, why don't you talk to me alone? Since this tree could be controlled by divine consciousness, it could imitate human voices, so naturally, it could understand human speech. Jun Moxie was completely confident that the other party would be able to receive his voice transmission and understand his meaning. After that, Jun Moxie purposely spouted nonsense to infuriate it. Thus, Lord Holy Tree naturally captured this fellow. Otherwise, with the rainbow holy tree's strange temper, how could it let Miao Huanyu and Miao Huanyu go so easily in its rage, and just chase them away and be done with it? Jun Moxie had just sat down when he felt the space shake inexplicably. Then, a blurry figure slowly emerged from the haze, and transformed into a human face in front of Jun Dashao. It was a somewhat strange human face. The face was covered in tree roots, but it seemed to be an old man with a full beard. After witnessing that extremely miraculous and mysterious energy, the Lord Holy Tree impatiently came in. "Human Junior, what do you want to talk to me about?" The Lord Holy Tree put on airs and said condescendingly, "We'll talk about what later. Give me a chair first." June Moxie snorted and curled his lips. "With that attitude of yours, there's no way I'm going to talk to you." "Chair? What's a chair?" The Lord Holy Tree's root-covered old face revealed a confused expression. "A chair is… have you never seen a chair before?" June Moxie glared. The Lord Holy Tree's expression became even more confused. "Then let me have a place to sit. Don't you think that the two of us are too far apart? You're so tall, and it's very difficult for me to raise my head to talk. I can't communicate comfortably, so let's not talk," June Moxie said as he raised his head. The Lord Holy Tree blinked, and a hand suddenly appeared out of thin air, gouged out its eyeball and threw it down. With a dong sound, the eyeball turned into a wooden block. "Is this okay?" With a schwatch sound, the hand covered in thin tree roots disappeared again. "Is this okay?" June Dashao was really shocked. Seeing this thing's eye gradually become blurry, and then another eyeball appeared, he couldn't help but gasp in amazement. "Damn, this is too valiant." As expected of an old monster that has lived for tens of thousands of years, he does have some skills. However, looking at the wooden block in front of him, June Dashao had some misgivings in his heart. "If I sit down, I'll be sitting on an eyeball? This is too disgusting," but after thinking about it, he still sat down. "I'm sitting on your eyeball, so what?" The moment he sat on it, the tree stump that had turned into an eyeball suddenly grew taller and taller. In an instant, June Emosia was lifted into the air to face the face. "Is this okay? Equal exchange? Very comfortable, right?" The Lord Holy Tree asked proudly. What it meant was, "What, Human Junior, you actually dare to play tricks with me, the Holy Tree? Have you seen the methods of the Lord Holy Tree?" "Okay, it's not bad." June Moxie rolled his eyes. "No matter how awesome you are, your eyeball is still under my butt." Thinking of this, June Dashao suddenly thought of a saying. "Looking at the sky with your butt up, you have eyes but can't see. But now, I'm sitting on an eyeball. Doesn't that mean I have eyes and a pearl?" "That strange energy of yours. Show me, let me take a closer look." The Lord Holy Tree said arrogantly. Although he looked very eager, he still put on airs, giving the impression that "I'm looking at your thing because I appreciate you, and you should know the taste of gratitude." Ever since entering this space, the Lord Holy Tree started to speak like a normal person. It wasn't like before, where he used his mental power to communicate with the other party's divine sense. It seemed that only in this space was he truly omnipotent. Sure. With June Moxie's intelligence, how could he not understand the emotions of the Holy Tree? However, there was no harm in looking at it a little longer. The more impatient it was, the easier it would be later. This young master might as well let it be a little more impatient. Negotiating with this young master, you actually want to take the initiative? You still want to put on the airs of the Lord Holy Tree? Dream on. Under the eager gaze of those eyes, June Dashao stretched out his right hand and shouted, "Power of all wood growth." It was originally the power of wood, but young Master June deliberately shouted it out loud this time, and even added a few more words to make it sound funny. But because of these few words, just this name alone caused this Lord Holy Tree's eyes to widen even further. June Dashao had already seen that this fellow in front of him had an extremely high foundation, so high that it was terrifying. However, in terms of intelligence, he was not much better than a child. This fellow had stayed here for more than 10,000 years, and did not even have someone to talk to. How smart could he be? To put it simply, it was like a child with absolute wealth. If there wasn't something that suited him, then everything would go according to his wishes. Once he was satisfied, he would give away some of the things that he didn't like. He might even give you some of the best things. And the misty illusory manner had used such a method. However, this method was too passive and was not suitable for June Dashao. On the other hand, June Moxie had something that could make the rainbow holy tree drool: the power of wood. This was equivalent to teasing the child with the most delicious candy. If the child wanted the candy, he would have to pay a considerable price. In this way, the situation was reversed. As for why he added a gimmick, it was because he was afraid that the childish fellow would not understand if he just shouted power of wood. After all, the more powerful a name was, the more shocking it would be to a child, under the gaze of that pair of big eyes, a ball of light green light condensed in Jun Dushao's palm. This extremely pure innate E-wood power began to expand in this narrow space. It only expanded, but it would not leak out at all. In other words, it would not be a problem if he just looked and admired it. As for enjoying it, sorry, absolutely not. He would not even be able to smell it. With the advancement of young Master Jun's cultivation, his control over the power of the 5 elements could be said to have reached a hair-raising level. The Rainbow Lord Holy Tree's eyes were wide open. It stared greedily at the green light, and did not move away. As that green light grew bigger and bigger, Lord Holy Tree's eyes also bulged out bit by bit. Eventually, the green ball grew to the size of an ordinary soccer ball, and the eyeballs of the Lord Holy Tree seemed to have completely popped out of their sockets. It was as if there were 2 huge eyeballs hanging in the air. The Lord Holy Tree's face was filled with endless infatuation. It subconsciously stretched out a feeler and carefully stroked the green ball of light. Was the power of growth that he had been pursuing for countless years, the power of growth that he had yearned for day and night. My heavens, my earth, my God. If I eat this green ball of light, I will be able to increase my growth power by at least 10,000 years. At that time, I will be able to, wow. This is really too blissful. Ah. Saliva flowed out of the opened mouth of the Lord Holy Tree, and it hung on the ground, sparkling. Jun Dushao's horizons were broadened once again. The ancients always said that one coveted 3 feet. I always thought it was a boast. But after seeing this one, I understand that it was definitely not a boast. This is not just 3 feet. It seems to be more than 3 feet, and it doesn't have a broken line. Suddenly, that greedy mouth stretched out its neck, wanting to swallow the green ball of light in one gulp. Jun Moxie turned his wrist, and the green ball of light disappeared with a swoosh. Chapter 1039. Let's go back first. It's a waste of effort again. We'll have to wait for at least another 100 years. Miao Huanyu sighed helplessly. I'm not going back. I'll wait here, wait for him to come back. Miao Xiaomiao shook her head stubbornly. She stared at the spot where the Rainbow Holy Tree used to be, her eyes filled with tears. Silly girl, how do you know where Junyi will come out from? The Holy Tree has always been unpredictable. It's completely unpredictable. Also, the Lord Holy Tree's concept of time is different from ours. Miao Huanyu didn't finish his sentence. How do you know he'll definitely come out? If he doesn't come out, won't you have to wait here for the rest of your life? I don't care, I'll wait here. I'll wait for 100 years, 1,000 years, I'll wait. If I can't wait until he comes out, I'll die here. Miao Xiaomiao insisted. Her expression was resolute, and her eyes didn't waver in the slightest. Miao Huanyu sighed helplessly. Inside the Holy Tree. Jun Moxie felt his vision darken for a moment, then brightened up. His entire body had been moved, and he was now inside the tree. This place, however, was an even more bizarre space. The air was filled with dense mist, and it emitted a faint 7-colored mist. A hazy fragrance drifted over. The ground beneath him was abnormally flat, but he couldn't see the specific color of the ground. There were many thin root-like things floating around him. Jun Moxie smiled and sat down peacefully. He hadn't guessed wrong. The power of wood was indeed a kind of aura that all plants in the world welcomed. Or perhaps it shouldn't be said that they welcomed it. Rather, they were eager to get it. Jun Dashao's act of provoking the Rainbow Holy Tree was just a way to fool others. When the Rainbow Holy Tree first appeared, Jun Moxie had already activated the power of wood and released a trace of it from his palm. That was why the Rainbow Holy Tree had started to sway at that time, and it had been shaking very violently. That was the inexplicable joy that the Rainbow Holy Tree showed when it sensed the power of wood. It was not because Miao Huanyu thought that the Holy Tree had been flattered. Next, June Moxie used his divine sense to transmit a message. Do you want this thing? If you're interested, why don't you talk to me alone? Since this tree could be controlled by divine consciousness, it could imitate human voices, so naturally, it could understand human speech. June Moxie was completely confident that the other party would be able to receive his voice transmission and understand his meaning. After that, June Moxie purposely spouted nonsense to infuriate it. Thus, Lord Holy Tree naturally captured this fellow. Otherwise, with the Rainbow Holy Tree's strange temper, how could it let Miao Huanyu and Miao Huanyu go so easily in its rage, and just chase them away and be done with it? June Moxie had just sat down when he felt the space shake inexplicably. Then, a blurry figure slowly emerged from the haze, and transformed into a human face in front of June Dashao. It was a somewhat strange human face. The face was covered in tree roots, but it seemed to be an old man with a full beard. After witnessing that extremely miraculous and mysterious energy, the Lord Holy Tree impatiently came in. Human Junior, what do you want to talk to me about? The Lord Holy Tree put on airs and said condescendingly. We'll talk about what later. Give me a chair first. June Moxie snorted and curled his lips. With that attitude of yours, there's no way I'm going to talk to you. Chair? What's a chair? The Lord Holy Tree's root-covered face revealed a confused expression. A chair is… have you never seen a chair before? June Moxie glared. The Lord Holy Tree's expression became even more confused. Then let me have a place to sit. Don't you think that the two of us are too far apart? You're so tall, and it's very difficult for me to raise my head to talk. I can't communicate comfortably, so let's not talk, June Moxie said as he raised his head. The Lord Holy Tree blinked, and a hand suddenly appeared out of thin air, gouged out its eyeball and threw it down. With a dong sound, the eyeball turned into a wooden block. Is this okay? With a schwatch sound, the hand covered in thin tree roots disappeared again. Is this okay? June Dashao was really shocked. Seeing this thing's eye gradually become blurry, and then another eyeball appeared, he couldn't help but gasp in amazement. Damn, this is too valiant. As expected of an old monster that has lived for tens of thousands of years, he does have some skills. However, looking at the wooden block in front of him, June Dashao had some misgivings in his heart. If I sit down, I'll be sitting on an eyeball? This is too disgusting, but after thinking about it, he still sat down. I'm sitting on your eyeball, so what? The moment he sat on it, the tree stump that had turned into an eyeball suddenly grew taller. In an instant, young Master June was lifted into the air, and was facing that face. Is this okay? Equal exchange? Very comfortable, right? The Lord Holy Tree asked proudly. What it meant was, what Human Junior, you actually dare to play tricks with me, the Holy Tree? Have you seen the methods of the Lord Holy Tree? Okay, it's not bad. June Moxie rolled his eyes. No matter how awesome you are, your eyeball is still under my butt. Thinking of this, June Dashao suddenly thought of a saying. Looking at the sky with your butt up, you have eyes but can't see. But now, I'm sitting on an eyeball. Doesn't that mean I have eyes and a pearl? That strange energy of yours. Show me, let me take a closer look. The Lord Holy Tree said arrogantly. Although he looked very eager, he still put on airs, giving the impression that I'm looking at your thing because I appreciate you, and you should know the taste of gratitude. Ever since entering this space, the Lord Holy Tree started to speak like a normal person. It wasn't like before, where he used his mental power to communicate with the other party's divine sense. It seemed that only in this space was he truly omnipotent. Sure. With June Moxie's intelligence, how could he not understand the emotions of the Holy Tree? However, there was no harm in looking at it a little longer. The more impatient it was, the easier it would be later. This young master might as well let it be a little more impatient. Negotiating with this young master, you actually want to take the initiative? You still want to put on the airs of the Lord Holy Tree. Dream on, under the eager gaze of those eyes, June Dashao stretched out his right hand and shouted, Power of all wood growth. It was originally the power of wood, but young Master June deliberately shouted it out loud this time, and even added a few more words to make it sound funny. But because of these few words, just this name alone caused this Lord Holy Tree's eyes to widen even further. Jun Dashao had already seen that this fellow in front of him had an extremely high foundation, so high that it was terrifying. However, in terms of intelligence, he was not much better than a child. This fellow had stayed here for more than 10,000 years, and did not even have someone to talk to. How smart could he be? To put it simply, it was like a child with absolute wealth. If there wasn't something that suited him, then everything would go according to his wishes. Once he was satisfied, he would give away some of the things that he didn't like, and he might even give you some very good things. And this was the method that the misty, illusory manner used. However, this method was too passive, and did not suit Jun Dashao at all. On the other hand, Jun Moxie had something that the Rainbow Holy Tree coveted: the power of wood. This was equivalent to teasing the child with the most delicious candy. If the child wanted the candy, he had to pay a considerable price. In this way, the situation between the two sides was reversed. As for why he added a gimmick, it was because he was afraid that the obviously childish fellow would not understand if he just shouted power of wood. After all, the more powerful a name was, the more shocking it would be to a child. Under the gaze of that pair of big eyes, a ball of light green light condensed in Jun Dashao's palm. This extremely pure innate wood power began to expand in this narrow space. It only expanded, but it would not leak out at all. In other words, it would not be a problem if he just looked and admired it. As for enjoying it, absolutely not. He would not even be able to smell it. With the improvement of Jun Dashao's cultivation base, his current control of the innate 5 elements had reached a horrifying level. The Rainbow Lord Holy Tree's eyes were wide open. It stared at the green light with an extremely greedy gaze, and did not move away. As the green light gradually grew, the eyes of the Lord Holy Tree also bulged out bit by bit. In the end, the green ball gradually grew to the size of an ordinary soccer ball, and the pair of football-sized eyes of the Lord Holy Tree seemed to have completely protruded out of their sockets. It was as if there were 2 huge eyeballs hanging in the air. There was only endless intoxication left on the face of the Lord Holy Tree. It subconsciously stretched out one of its feelers and carefully stroked the green ball of light. This was the growth power that it had been pursuing for countless years, the power of growth that it had yearned for even in its dreams. My heavens, my earth, my God. If I eat this green ball of light, I will be able to increase my growth power by at least 10,000 years. At that time, I will be able to, wow. This is really too blissful. Saliva flowed out of the opened mouth of the Lord Holy Tree, and it hung on the ground in a long, shiny line. Jun Dashao's horizons were broadened once again. The ancients always said that one coveted 3 feet. I always thought that it was a boast. But after seeing this one, I understand that it was definitely not a boast. This is not just 3 feet. It seems to be more than 3 feet, and it doesn't even have a broken line. Suddenly, that greedy mouth stretched out its neck, wanting to swallow the green ball of light in one gulp. Jun Moxie turned his wrist, and the green ball of light disappeared with a swoosh. Chapter 1040. The Lord Holy Tree let out an angry roar. Kid, how dare you play tricks on me? Quickly hand over that mysterious energy. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Do you want to teach me a lesson? Jun Moxie snorted. He crossed his legs and sat on the deformed chair that was 5 or 6 feet above the ground. Moreover, a ball of flame that was darker than the night appeared out of thin air with a boom sound, and quietly burned. It emitted an endless power of death. The flame of primal chaos. A threat. The threat of eating fruit. The Lord Holy Tree's eyeballs bulged out again and stretched again. He could clearly sense that this seemingly inconspicuous cluster of black flames could easily incinerate his body, which had grown for over 10,000 years, into ashes. What was more serious was that this was still within his own body, and he did not have the slightest ability to contend or resist it. The 7-colored Lord Holy Tree was very tactful and immediately shut its mouth. This caused the long stream of saliva to fall to the ground with a plop. At the same time, his head suddenly became clear, and one could faintly see water dripping down from his head. It seemed to be sweat from fear. How could such a thing happen? How unlucky! The Lord Holy Tree wanted to cry. Why did I provoke such a jinx to come in? I thought that my domain could easily melt everything in the world, so I boldly called him in for a talk to make sure that the mysterious energy had nowhere to hide. If the talk was not good, this kid would be digested into fertilizer, and the energy wouldn't be able to escape. But now, not only was it not a big deal, but his little life was directly in the hands of the other party. If it was a sin, it could be avoided, but if it was self-inflicted, it could not be avoided. That was the eternal wisdom. The Lord Holy Tree closed his mouth and stared, not knowing what to do for a moment. Even though he had lived for more than 10,000 years, his intelligence was still like that of a young child. Could a child be expected to quickly make the right choice in the face of a sudden fatal threat? However, Jun Dashao would be responsible for giving this kid hints. I say, Lord Holy Tree, don't you want to look good? Is this beautiful? Isn't this energy magical enough? Jun Moxie lowered his head and looked at the flame of primal chaos in his palm. He suddenly tossed it out and the flame of primal chaos instantly flew up and burned in the air. Once it left Jun Moxie's hand, the power of the flame of primal chaos was immediately revealed. Unfortunately, the colorful mist in the space was the essence of the rainbow holy tree. Although it was only gas, it could not escape the fate of being burned. Wood fed fire, and it seemed to be the best fuel. Wait. The Lord Holy Tree's voice became shrill. Young one, stop. At the same time, a wave of intense pain made his transformed facial features spasm. What the hell did you call me? Jun Moxie asked lightly. At the same time, he turned his wrist and summoned another flame of primal chaos. This one was even bigger than the previous one. The Lord Holy Tree was so shocked that he almost forgot about the pain. Oh my God! I can't even stand one, and there's actually another one. Help, what should I call you? Big Brother. The Lord Holy Tree finally understood in this extreme danger and directly called him Big Brother. Big Brother? Seems like it's still not comfortable enough. Jun Dashao lowered his head and played with the flame of primal chaos in his palm. Suddenly, he raised his hand and looked like he was about to throw it. No, no, no. Great Master, Great Master? You're my Great Master? My dear Great Master? The Lord Holy Tree completely gave in. Who's your dear Great Master? Great Master is Great Master. What Great Master? Forget it, I'm a magnanimous and righteous man. I won't argue with you. Jun Moxie casually waved his hand and retrieved the flame of primal chaos that was floating in the air. The two flames instantly merged into one and quietly danced in his palm. The crisis was finally over for the time being. The Lord Holy Tree finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was so scared that he almost peed. If he had sweat, he might have peed too. Great Master? Ooh. The Lord Holy Tree finally couldn't help but cry. He had never seen someone bully a person like this. A tree bully? Please retract your eyeballs before you talk to me. I feel uncomfortable looking at them. Jun Emosie crossed his legs in a calm and unruffled manner. Then, he pointed his finger at the two huge eyeballs that were suspended in front of him. It had to be said that having these two things hanging in front of him really made one panic. The Lord Holy Tree instantly understood. With a whoosh, he retracted his eyeballs. Then, a fawning expression appeared on his face full of thin roots. Great Master, do you have any other orders? Hearing the intimate way of addressing him as Great Master, Jun Dashao was speechless again. I say, you've lived for more than 10,000 years. Let's not talk about having a child's temperament. Why don't you have any moral integrity? Facing this spineless tree, Jun Dashao was really speechless. Most strong people would have their own principles, but this tree was different. Once it was threatened, it even called out Great Master. Actually, Lord Holy Tree was also a little speechless. You fucking dug into my internal organs and took out a terrifying flame that could burn me to ashes in an instant. You even shamelessly forced me to call you Old Master. I was forced into a corner and had no choice but to call you Old Master. Now you say that I have no moral integrity. What do you want me to do? Why are you so hard to please? I want to have moral integrity too, but if I only care about it, I'll lose my life. I've lived for more than 10,000 years. It's not easy for me, great master. Moral integrity is indeed important, the Lord Holy Tree said with a bitter face as he weighed his words. But my life is more important, I see. June Moxie was exasperated that the tree did not meet his expectations. You extraterrestrial beings. You've received too little education. If you abandon moral integrity just because your life is important, what's the point of living? Can't you have some goals? Some goals? At least some dignity? The Lord Holy Tree said yes and kept nodding his head. However, he felt very wronged. If a knife was placed on your neck, I'd like to see how you can maintain your moral integrity. Don't you feel pain in your back when you're talking to someone whose life could be in danger at any time? I've seen despicable and shameless people, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you. Didn't you say that there are a few other rainbow holy tree trees here? Why is it only you, brother, are here now? Where are the others? June Moxie sighed. He could see that talking about moral integrity with this fellow was like talking to a cow. Fortunately, he was not here to enlighten the tree, or else this fellow would be pissed to death. However, this was also good. It would save him a lot of trouble. Since when? I've always been alone here. The Lord Holy Tree was stunned, but he immediately understood what he was talking about. You mean, the trees that they've cultivated? That's right. June Moxie nodded his head. How can those lousy trees be called Rainbow Holy Tree? Lord Holy Tree instantly felt a little smug. With this comparison, Lord Holy Tree instantly felt its own greatness and uniqueness. Those few trees are actually just sprouts growing from my roots. At most, they can be considered this Lord's descendants. What kind of mystical characteristics do they have? Even if they grow for 10,000 years, it's impossible for them to bear the holy fruit. They don't have that function at all. I've already devoured them. Devoured? Damn it. June Moxie was dumbfounded. This fellow was actually so heartless. He even wanted to devour his own descendants. Oh? From what you're saying, it's impossible for a second rainbow holy tree to appear in this world. June Moxie blinked his eyes. That's not necessarily true. From willing, that's all there is to it. How can it be so easy to cultivate a rainbow holy tree? Without thousands of years of trials and tribulations, how can it become a talent? The holy tree is naturally the only. Halfway through his sentence, the Lord Holy Tree changed his words. He shook his head and sighed. The holy tree is a big tree. The big tree grows old and withstands the trials and tribulations of wind and frost. Then, it becomes a towering tree. This fellow could actually compose poems. He could even suppress the rhymes. June Dushao really had to look at him in a different light. Is there really no way to cultivate a second rainbow holy tree? June Dushao's voice became dangerous. He tossed the flame of chaos in his hand and said pitifully, "Sigh. Then there's no use for me to keep you. I came here today with the intention of moving a tree, but you're so big that I can't bring you with me. If I can't move you, it means that I'm destined not to get the rainbow holy tree. No, how can someone else have something that I don't even have? Since you said that you're the only one, then I might as well destroy you and go our separate ways. From today onwards, the rainbow holy tree will become history and no longer belong to anyone." After saying that, he tossed the flame of chaos in his hand. What kind of person was June Dushao? As soon as the holy tree spoke, he had already determined that the key to cultivating another rainbow holy tree was this Lord Holy Tree. However, this fellow was obviously not being honest. But I'm in your heart now. What's the use of being dishonest? Thought, sir. Sir, you're the sir, okay? Please don't set me on fire. The Lord Holy Tree's tone changed, and his face became like a waterfall. We're on the same side. Let's talk. Everything can be discussed. Chapter 1041. Sir, listen to me. Actually, I don't belong to anyone. At most, I'll just ignore those people and make them unable to see me. That should be fine, right? The Lord Holy Tree begged. Bullsh *T. What does it have to do with me whether you see those people or not? Just one sentence. I must bring a holy tree away from here today. If you can't fulfill my wish, you'll lose the value of your existence. Those who obey me will live, and those who defy me, they'll be annihilated, their souls dispersed, and they'll be beyond redemption. Fuck it. June Moxie had a face that said, I'm a gangster, so who am I afraid of you? I understand. I do. I really do. Sir, please have mercy and wait for a moment. The Lord Holy Tree stuttered. If it wasn't for the fact that he remembered that this sir didn't like his eyeballs popping out, his eyeballs would have probably shot out 30 feet away. Wait for a moment? You're about to die. Why are you still wasting my time? I don't have that much time. June Dashao put on a confused and impatient look. Don't be anxious. Please allow me to explain. The Lord Holy Tree said humbly. There was no need to mention the grievances and annoyance in its heart. Back then, when the Nine Nether first young master planted it here, he also protected it very carefully, unlike this bandit right now, wanting to destroy people just because of a disagreement. Fuck me. Why have people become like this now? Don't they even know how to flatter others? A certain tree turned around, feeling extremely wronged. Then, those two thick arms appeared again, holding out two round green things. What's this thing? I'm really impatient right now. June Moxie squinted his eyes. This is my life essence. The Lord Holy Tree was about to cry. It sobbed and said, only with my consent can these two life essences be fused into one. After being watered by my own blood essence, it might transform into a rainbow seed. After that, it will sprout and grow into a new rainbow holy tree, but that will take a long time. I see. I understand now. June Dashao waved his hand. Then hurry up and cultivate them now, then water them and let them sprout immediately. I'm in a hurry. Let's be quick. The Lord Holy Tree's eyelids rolled, revealing a faint expression. If I want this life essence to grow into a seed, I'll have to sacrifice 1,000 years of my own growth power. In addition, I'll have to extract a third of my essence. Lord Holy Tree's eyes darted around, and its voice was as loud as a train. It kept looking at that mysterious left hand of this old master in front of it that had just unleashed the power of growth of all trees. Enough with the nonsense. I've said from the start that I'm here to discuss a deal with you. I won't let you suffer such a one-sided loss. I'll make up for the loss of your growth power. Even if I have to double the compensation, it's not a problem. June Mo knew the principle of giving a carrot after hitting a stick. If this fellow was angered and decided to fight to the death, then he wouldn't be able to obtain any benefits. If he really wanted to kill him, he really couldn't bring himself to do it. After all, this was a creature that had lived for tens of thousands of years. In extreme delight, the Lord Holy Tree's eyeballs shot out uncontrollably. Really? At the same time, it was calculating how much it should ask for. Why would I lie to you? June Moxie lifted his chin. You should understand that even if I don't give you a single cent now, would you dare not hasten my growth? If that's the case, what's the use of lying to you? Hurry up and get to work. That's true. Although the Lord Holy Tree did not know what a single cent meant, it had a general idea of what it meant. There was no need for the other party to lie to it now. Since it would not suffer a loss, it could work to its heart's content. If the other party really gave it enough life power, it might even make a profit. Thank you, sir. I'll get to it right away. The Lord Holy Tree bowed and bowed. Then, under the Lord Holy Tree's control, the two life essences shone with a blurry green light, while the other shone with a blurry rainbow light. Then, they slowly combined into one. In an instant, the green light shone brightly. Then, the Lord Holy Tree panted. Sir, please come this way. June Moxie followed a tree root that led the way. After making a slight turn, he saw a big pool in front of him. Inside, it was filled with dark green water. On the top of the pool was a dense rainbow mist. Lord Holy Tree said proudly, "Old master, look, this is the life-blood essence that I mentioned just now. Only after that seed has been soaked in here will it truly sprout and grow. If it's not soaked in here, even if it can sprout by luck, it will wither very quickly." Ha! A certain tree laughed proudly and placed the newly grown seed inside. With a gurgle, it sank to the bottom of the pool. Instantly, the surface of the water bubbled. That was the seed absorbing the holy tree's life essence? This is your life essence? Don't tell me that's all it's used for? Jun Dashao could not stand this fellow showing off every chance he got. He thought to himself, this bit of tree sap can only be used to nurture a tree at most. What are you so proud of? Why is this all it's used for? The Lord Holy Tree no longer looked down on him. If it was someone else, he would have rolled them up and turned them into fertilizer. However, he did not dare to do that to the person in front of him. Just as he was about to explode, he controlled his temper and said angrily, "Sir, my life essence is a first-rate treasure in the world. No matter if it's a human, beast, or plant, as long as it's a living creature, no matter how badly it's injured, it only needs to soak in here for an hour to recover to its original state. Even if its soul is destroyed, as long as its corpse is still there, soaking in here will allow its lost soul to gather again and come back to life. Right? This life essence of mine is the heavenly root water that's circulated in the human world. Have you heard of the legendary heavenly root water?" At this point, the Lord Holy Tree looked at Jun Moxie with a proud and arrogant gaze. He thought to himself, now you've been subdued, haven't you? Now you know how extraordinary I am? Heavenly root water? What's that? Is it really that powerful? Jun Dashao cooperated with the Lord Holy Tree and revealed a shocked expression, his mouth agape. However, he thought to himself, if it's really so magical, can it heal Qian Sun's injuries? Ha! The Lord Holy Tree laughed in satisfaction. He felt as if he could finally hold his head high. There was no need to mention the comfort in his heart. Brat, although you can threaten me, the treasures that I, the Lord Holy Tree, have here are things that you don't even dare to think about. Thinking of this, he felt even more comfortable. He deliberately frowned and pretended to sigh. It's a pity that you don't have a companion who is seriously injured. Especially the kind of injury that almost destroyed his divine soul. Otherwise, I'll let you see the magical effect of this essence blood. It's called a miracle, a legend among legends. Legend? Halfway through his transmission, he was glared at by Jun Moxie. Only then did he realize that this person in front of him was not someone he could provoke. He was his own master. As for the companion who's seriously injured, the Lord Holy Tree felt that it was complete nonsense. Who would carry that around? An injured person whose soul was completely destroyed seemed to be no different from a corpse, right? Who would carry a corpse around with them? Therefore, the Lord Holy Tree felt that it did not matter if he said it. After all, this brat would leave with the seed in a while. Even if he did not compensate me, it would not matter. How would he know that the Lord Holy Tree did not actually spend much to cultivate the seed? The most important thing now was to quickly send this brat away. After he left, this place would be my world again. Really? Jun Moxie was even more shocked. Of course, said the Lord Holy Tree proudly. But in the next moment, the person who was dumbfounded was himself. Since it's so miraculous, help me treat her injuries. One had to strike while the iron was hot. Without hesitation, Jun Dashao summoned the Qiansun Serpent Queen's body out of the Hongjun Pagoda and carefully placed it on the ground. The Lord Holy Tree was laughing heartily when it suddenly turned into a look of astonishment. Before the smile on his face could fade away, it immediately turned into a look of wanting to cry but having no tears. A pair of huge eyeballs popped out with its huge sound and unexpectedly hit the ground once again. At this moment, the Lord Holy Tree really wanted to give himself a tight slap on the face. I'm really fucking stupid. My mouth is really fucking cheap. What am I saying all this for? What am I bragging about? If I can just deceive him and leave, everything will be fine. With the Lord Holy Tree's eyesight, he could naturally see that this woman in front of him was on the verge of her soul shattering. She did not even have a chance of survival. This was exactly what he was talking about. It was not that he could not save her, but if he wanted to save her, he would have to pay a huge price. The Lord Holy Tree really wanted to cry but had no tears. Don't be fooled by how troubled he was just now. Actually, growing a seed only required a little bit of blood essence at most, and he did not even need to feel bad about it. But when it came to treating an injury that caused her soul to shatter, how much would it cost? To put it bluntly, even the blood essence used to cultivate a seed 1,000 times might not be enough to treat such an injury. Looking at the blood essence that he had painstakingly accumulated over 10,000 years, the Lord Holy Tree even had the thought of banging his head against the wall. If he saved this woman, he was afraid that at least half of the blood essence in this pool would be used up, more than half. More than half. The Lord Holy Tree's expression was extremely conflicted as he looked up to the sky and sighed. At this moment, he really had nothing left to live for. Heavens, please strike me down with lightning and kill me. No, it's best if you strike this despicable bastard before me to death first. How about it? Hee, I know that the Lord Holy Tree has always been a man of his words. June Moxie said very modestly as he looked at the suicidal Lord Holy Tree with admiration. Ooh, 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 ooh. Lord Holy Tree bawled loudly. Its voice was extremely pitiful, as though it was a little girl who had just won a beauty pageant and was in high spirits, only to be gang-raped, and it seemed like it had been gang-raped several times. Young Master June had never imagined that this Lord Holy Tree that had lived for over 10,000 years would actually cry. Furthermore, it could cry in such a shocking manner. In that moment, he was a little dumbfounded. Chapter 1042. Sob sob. If you want me to treat this woman, sob sob sob, I will lose at least half of my life essence. The Lord Holy Tree wept sorrowfully. This is my savings over 10,000 years, sob sob. Just burn me to death, I don't want to live anymore, I don't have a way to live anymore. Cough cough, even if you really don't have a way to live, please cure her first. Words can't be taken lightly, especially words spoken by a big shot like the Lord Holy Tree. June Dashao consoled. Don't cry yet, even if you want to commit suicide, save her first, then grow a seedling successfully. If you want to commit suicide, then commit suicide. Is this consolation? The Lord Holy Tree was so angry that it wanted to jump up and fight this shameless bastard to the death. Was this even something a human could say? If I help you complete everything, why would I commit suicide? Don't worry, the Emperor doesn't use hungry soldiers. You won't lose out in this deal? June Dashao chuckled. The flame of chaos was burning in his right hand, and the light green ball of light appeared on his left finger again. What? Sob sob sob. The Lord Holy Tree cried even more sorrowfully at the sight of the green ball of light and the so-called power of growth of all trees. If it wasn't for this thing, would I have ended up in such a miserable state? Now, I've lost almost all my savings, but I still haven't eaten anything besides. This thing can only speed up my growth. It can't speed up the accumulation of my life essence. Even if you give me this green ball of light, I won't be able to grow so much life essence in such a short period of time. Won't lose out? If this deal is completed, I'll go bankrupt. Fuck. You're an old monster who has lived for over 10,000 years. Why are you crying like a little girl? June Emosie was getting a little impatient. This guy is crying so much that he's not done yet. He didn't even answer the question. Can you or can you not? Just give me a straightforward answer. If you really can't, then I won't make things difficult for you. I definitely won't make things difficult for useless people, although the flame of primal chaos said that he wouldn't make things difficult for the flame of primal chaos. It inexplicably jumped up and caught the flame of primal chaos, then jumped up and caught the flame of primal chaos again. You call this not making things difficult for me? How is that making things difficult for me? So, the Lord Holy Tree, who was on the verge of breaking down, felt that its life was too miserable. It couldn't even brag? This guy actually carried a half-dead body with him, whose soul was almost shattered. Was it a crime for him to brag? The guy in front of him had an ominous glint in his eyes and killing intent. Although he said that he wouldn't make things difficult for him, He knew that if he said no, he would turn into ashes in the next moment. That black flame was too terrifying. It was definitely his nemesis. Was there still justice in this world? How could there be such a person in this world? Can you or not? Be straightforward. Give me a straightforward answer. I don't have much time. I'm in a hurry. The killing intent on June Moxie's face was getting thicker. If this guy is trying to trick me and make my hopes go up in smoke, I'll really burn you alive into a pile of charcoal and barbecue mutton skewers. Sure. Really sure. Definitely sure. Definitely sure. The Lord Holy Tree instantly trembled. He was so scared that he didn't dare to cry anymore. He immediately gave a clear answer. He could already hear the killing intent in June Moxie's tone. How could he dare to say no? He had to do it even if he had to risk his life. Although he was so depressed that he wanted to commit suicide, the problem wasn't that desperate yet. Moreover, who would want to die if they could live? Although the price he had to pay this time was too high. Then be quick. Why are you crying and whining? You're so annoying. June Moxie realized that this guy was amenable to force but not coaxing. His tone became even nastier. It was necessary to put more pressure on this kind of guy, sir. The Lord Holy Tree looked at the devil in front of him with hidden bitterness. He begged, "You must give me the power of all wood growth. I'm different from you. I always keep my word. I mean what I say." June Moxie nodded. Thank you, sir." When the Lord Holy Tree said this, he felt extremely aggrieved. The person in front of him had used up everything he had, and he still had to thank him. What kind of logic was this? After calculating the gains and losses, the Lord Holy Tree reluctantly nodded and agreed. Turning his head, the Lord Holy Tree let out another miserable cry. "What's wrong with you? You're so shocked. Are you possessed?" June Moxie was also shocked. Was this guy going to put on that act again? "I don't want to live anymore. I really don't want to live anymore." The Lord Holy Tree pointed at the Holy Tree embryo in the pool. He was so angry that he was about to explode. To hasten the growth of the sapling, it only needed to be soaked for a short period of time. However, he was too preoccupied with talking and crying just now that he had actually forgotten about this. Now, the seed inside had absorbed at least 10 times the amount of blood essence needed to grow a seed of the Holy Tree. The seed must have grown strong, but the Lord Holy Tree was so distressed that he almost vomited blood. A leaky roof was met with continuous rain, and a broken ship was met with headwind. He had really offended the ancestors of the path. This was one disaster after another. The Lord Holy Tree was so distressed that he almost fainted. He hurriedly scooped up the seed from the pond and discovered that the seed, which was originally wrinkled, was now plump and plump. In fact, some parts of the seed were even bubbling as if it was burping. It seemed like it had eaten its fill. The Lord Holy Tree almost wanted to throw the seed out and smash it into pieces. Young Master June let out a warning sound at the same time. The Lord Holy Tree's body trembled. He slowly turned around and smiled flatteringly. "Sir, this seed is already ready? I have to check it a little. Let's see if you've cut corners or not." June Moxie did not hesitate and reached out to take it. Naturally, he reached out with his left hand. The power of wood was also kept. Then you can start saving her now." June Dashao raised his eyelids. "Sir." The Lord Holy Tree's face scrunched up like a bitter gourd. He carefully picked up Qian Sun's body with his big hand that was full of branches and placed it into the pool. "Be careful, be gentle." The eldest young master was worried and repeatedly shouted. Slowly, gently, the Lord Holy Tree's heart was filled with annoyance. "If you're worried, do it yourself. What are you yelling for? Look at how nervous you are. I can tell that this woman is not your wife. Who knows where you have a mistress? Don't be too happy. There will come a time when your backyard is in trouble." After cursing in his heart, Qian Sun Serpent Queen's body finally sank completely into the pool. Sinking completely like this? Is it okay? She still needs to breathe. June Moxie asked worriedly. "Do you know better or do I know better? Do you want to treat her or should I?" The Lord Holy Tree finally could not take it anymore. He turned his head and asked fiercely, "Why don't you do it yourself? Fuck. You're rebelling." Jun Dashao almost jumped up. He pointed at this guy's big nose. "You've got guts." "Say it again?" But. "You're my master." "I was wrong." "I was wrong, okay?" The Lord Holy Tree was shocked. He immediately remembered the dangerous situation he was in. He immediately softened. "Do you know your mistake? If you can't treat her, you can just wait to become charcoal. You actually dare to yell at this uncle? You've really got guts." Jun Emosier roared fiercely. His brows were vertical, and he looked like a fiend. To deal with this kind of bully, one must be tougher than him. Moreover, one must be tougher than him. One must maintain absolute dominance. The Lord Holy Tree subserviently promised, "I will definitely treat her. I will definitely treat her. Don't be so fierce." He was filled with regret. This guy looks like an unreasonable person. Why did I shout at him just now? I'm really asking for trouble for no reason. The Lord Holy Tree was already used to his situation. What did you say? How was I fierce? I was just teaching you how to be a person. Jun Dashao said coldly, Yes, master. I didn't understand your words." The Lord Holy Tree said, "Then tell me, am I gentle?" Jun Dashao asked in a strange voice. "You're so gentle." The Lord Holy Tree was about to cry again. "All right, continue to work hard." Jun Moxie waved his hand. Then he immersed his consciousness into the Hongjun Pagoda. Right now, the most important thing was to use the power of wood in the Hongjun Pagoda to speed up the growth of this seed. Then, it would be best if it could grow to the point where it could bear the first set of fruits. If he were to find out after leaving this place that this spineless tree was playing tricks on him and gave him a seed that looked good but was useless, and could not bear any fruit at all, then he would really be in big trouble. Inside the Hongjun Pagoda, he chose a large empty space, and planted the seed in the center of the empty space. Then, he manipulated the dense spiritual chi in the Hongjun Pagoda to howl over, and drilled into the soil. The soil in the Hongjun Pagoda naturally could not be compared to the outside world. It was a spiritual object full of spiritual energy. Indeed, after a short while, a green tree sprout emerged from the ground. Then, with a shake of the wind, it shot up to a height of over 10 feet. It stood upright like a bamboo pole. Then, leaves began to slowly grow on its trunk. Jun Moxie waved his left hand, and the power of wood flew towards the tree in a small range. A pale green halo instantly enveloped the small tree. Afraid that he would overspeed the growth of this tree and damage it, Jun Moxie did not dare to use too much force. Jun Dashao understood the principle of pulling a sprout to help it grow. Sure enough, once the power of wood was injected into the small tree immediately grew at a speed visible to the naked eye, and even too fast for the naked eye to follow. Chapter 1043. In what seemed like only a few breaths of time, that small sapling had already grown to the thickness of a person's thigh, and was about 5 to 6 zhang tall. Jun Moxie smiled slightly, and the fingers on his left hand moved. The light green halo suddenly disappeared, and in its place was a layer of dark green halo. With a bang, that sapling of the rainbow holy tree actually shot straight up into the sky, reaching a height of over 20 zhang. The trunk of the tree also instantly thickened, and the crown of the tree was like a dark cloud that had suddenly gathered in the sky, rapidly expanding. In an instant, it had already covered the sky and the earth. After a few breaths of time, it seemed like the sapling could no longer be called its sapling, because the trunk of this newly born rainbow holy tree had already reached a diameter of 3 to 4 meters. Countless 9-pointed leaves spread out, gently swaying, and the entire tree also emitted a faint 7-colored halo. After a while, in the dense foliage of this tree, a rich yet clear fragrance gradually emitted out. Little 7-colored flowers suddenly appeared, in clusters of 7, and on the entire tree, there were actually as many as 7 clusters. Jun Moxie was stunned for a moment. Don't they only form 2 clusters every 500 years? Why are there as many as 7 clusters appearing on this tree? Could it be a genetic mutation? Just as he was thinking about this question, this rainbow holy tree that had just been planted in the Hongjun Pagoda for less than a quarter of an hour actually began to bear fruit for the first time. As the petals wilted at a speed visible to the naked eye, the rainbow fruits instantly filled the branches, no more, no less, 49 by 7 by 7. There were really 7 clusters. Then, in the blink of an eye, the entire Hongjun Pagoda was filled with a rich, clear fragrance. Only then did Jun Moxie stop the input of the power of wood. He did not want to be kicked out of the Hongjun Pagoda like the last time. Taking a closer look at the 7 colored holy fruits, they were exactly the same as the ones he had eaten before. There was absolutely nothing out of the ordinary about them. The only difference was that the 7 colored holy fruits here were at least twice the size of the ones he had eaten before. It seems that the things cultivated in the Hongjun Pagoda are much stronger than those cultivated in the outside world. Another thing was, it seemed like the Lord Holy Tree wasn't playing tricks on him, worthy of praise. When people respect us, we have to return the favor. We still have a little bit of a conscience. It seemed that Jun Moxie did not know that when the Lord Holy Tree was a seed, it had only soaked in the essence and blood of its predecessor for a short while. It was not like this seed, which had eaten and drunk its fill. This treatment was 2 completely different things. To the rainbow tree, this was the most primitive innate foundation. It could even be said that the 7-colored holy fruit in Jun Moxie's Hongjun Pagoda was the true and complete 7-colored holy fruit. Just as Jun Dushao heaved a sigh of relief, another change occurred in the Hongjun Pagoda. From the body of the holy tree, a rainbow shot out, crossing the boundless space and connecting with the exquisite lotus on the other side. Then, this rainbow stopped in the middle and turned into a real rainbow bridge. Jun Moxie could even faintly feel that through the transmission of this rainbow bridge, the growth of the exquisite lotus and the rainbow tree had sped up. It was actually a mutually reinforcing effect. Too great. This is really too great. Jun Moxie waved his fist excitedly. He left the 7 clusters of 7-colored holy fruits on the tree and strengthened it a little to ensure that these fruits would not fall to the ground. Then he went out. Actually, this action of Jun Dashao's was purely unnecessary. The effect of the 7-colored holy fruits hanging on the tree was much better than plucking them. Furthermore, they would not fall unless forcefully plucked. What's going on? Jun Dashao was originally in a good mood after finishing his matters with the 7-colored holy fruit tree and the exquisite lotus. But when he came out, he seemed a little unhappy. The Qian Sun Serpent Queen had already been fished out by the holy tree and was lying flat on the ground. However, she still looked like a sleeping beauty, and there were no signs of her waking up. She was basically the same as before, and even her aura and condition did not change. Jun Dashao could not help but raise his eyebrows and grunt in displeasure. Master, calm down. This lady is already fine, she's really fine. Jun Dashao's grunt almost scared the Lord Holy Tree out of his wits. He hurriedly explained, I've already treated her injuries. If you don't believe me, you can take a closer look. I wouldn't dare to lie to you even if you gave me 100 guts. At the end of his words, the Lord Holy Tree's voice seemed to carry a hint of sobbing. Jun Moxie turned his head to take a look, and could not help but jump in fright. The Holy Tree's blood essence that was previously almost full had disappeared by more than half. From the looks of it, there was only a thin layer left, barely enough to cover the bottom of the pool. It seemed like the soft tree had really put in a lot of effort. Since you said that she's already been treated, why hasn't she woken up yet? Jun Moxie walked to Qian Sun's side and put his hand on her wrist. He was instantly overjoyed. The holy tree's blood essence really had the ability to seize the heavens and earth. The Snake King's wrist meridian had already returned to normal, and his heartbeat was no different from a normal person's. Moreover, his faint breathing had also returned to normal, stable and smooth. It was as if he was in a deep sleep. Sir? Your little mistress was severely injured previously. Based on her injuries, there should have been no way to save her, but you must have used a lot of heavenly treasures to create an environment that is close to a fetal breathing state for her, helping her retain the last shred of vitality and holding on until now. Although she has regained her vitality because of my holy tree's blood essence, she has been in a deep sleep for too long. Whether it is her spirit, mystic energy, or physical body, they are all in a most primitive state. If she rashly wakes up, it will put a huge burden on her spirit and body. If she can't bear it, it will inevitably trigger an irreversible negative effect. The Lord Holy Tree felt wronged. So I need you to nurse her for a period of time, sir. As long as she wakes up naturally from this deep sleep, all the negative effects will not exist. The Lord Holy Tree felt really wronged. This time, he was really thinking about the Sleeping Beauty. She slept alone for a few months. During this period of time, no matter how much effort the people who were responsible for taking care of her tried to arrange a living environment for her, it was never better than eating and drinking on her own. Moreover, she was in such a serious condition where she was 99% likely to die. It was already good enough to be able to feed her some soup and water every day. If she really woke up abruptly, he believed that her internal organs and bodily functions would not be able to bear it. This needed to be a gradual process. Of course, the Lord Holy Tree had made this arrangement with consideration for himself. If this Sleeping Beauty had a problem because her body could not bear the burden as soon as she woke up, then he would inevitably turn into ashes. Therefore, the Lord Holy Tree had no choice but to do this. Oh, what you said makes sense. I understand. June Moxie naturally understood this logic, but he was just confused because he was too concerned. It was inevitable that people would feel the same way. Although June Dashao was not a good person and was very unreasonable and black-bellied most of the time, he would still be reasonable when it was time to be reasonable. Thank you, please understand. The Lord Holy Tree's eyes were almost brimming with tears. To be able to gain the approval of this robber in front of him was really not easy, and you've indeed handled the matter of saving people very well. I'm very satisfied. I'll give you what I promised you later. However, I have another question to ask you, and I hope that you can answer it honestly. This 7-colored holy fruit of yours should be more than 2 batches a year, right? June Emosia furrowed his brows and looked at him. The Lord Holy Tree was stunned. Then he started sweating like a waterfall. This secret, how did he know? Could he be lying to me? Could he? Looking at June Moxie's confident expression, the Lord Holy Tree did not dare to lie in the end. Since he had decided to tell the truth, he might as well spill the beans and spill the beans. Yes, sir, you're really perceptive. Sir, I had no choice but to do that. I have to live too, live. June Moxie looked at the Lord Holy Tree in front of him with a doubtful gaze. What did the number of fruits have to do with your survival? Everyone in the world will grow old and die. This is very normal, isn't it? In fact, all living beings in the world are included in this category. The Lord Holy Tree said with a bitter expression, take us trees for example. Although our lifespans are longer than humans, we are also limited in this aspect. No matter what kind of king of trees I am, a spiritual plant of heaven and earth, even if I can live for 10,000 years or 20,000 years, there will still come a day when my lifespan will run out and I will die. This was the truth. Indeed, not many living beings could escape this logic. June Moxie nodded in agreement and gestured for him to continue. As for the process of a tree's life, I believe you must have some understanding, sir. I won't waste any more time and will get straight to the point. To obtain the 7-colored holy fruit, one naturally has to go through the process of blooming and bearing fruit. This entire process is a huge loss. To us, it's like you humans giving birth to a child. This thing needs to injure your vitality. Every 7-colored holy fruit contains different life essences. These life essences are the basic conditions for the growth of this holy fruit after 500 years of accumulation. If these life essences are all used for the growth of the fruit, then this process is equivalent to me, the holy tree, using up 500 years of its lifespan. Apart from making the tree thicker and taller, there is no benefit to the main body. Chapter 1044. Ever since I gained consciousness, I've become a living being in this world. I want to live for a few more years. Although there's not much point in living, it's still living. The Lord Holy Tree's expression was full of sorrow and sorrow. Therefore, after I understood the situation, I began to slowly reduce the number of saint fruits I had, until I only had 2 sets now. The other sets were all refined into life essence blood that could extend my lifespan. Then I gathered them here. In preparation for when my lifespan was long, I could use them to water myself so that I could live a little longer after my lifespan ran out. But now, thousands of years of savings have all gone to waste. Lord Holy Tree pointed at the blood essence pool that was about to reach the bottom. It really wanted to cry but had no tears. All of this was something that it had accumulated for thousands of years. Just because of the arrival of a god of plague like you, most of it was used up in an instant. You can't be blamed for this. June Moxie said magnanimously. Anyway, it was none of his business how much the Misty Mansion got. And now, he knew that the fruit tree in his Hongjun pagoda was growing normally. That was more than enough. Thinking about it even more shamelessly, the holy tree's blood essence that it had saved from not bearing fruit for thousands of years had all been used up by him to save people. It seemed like the one who had taken advantage of the misty, illusory manner was him. What if this guy really produces fruits? Then Green Hunter would really be in danger this time. Luckily, he was being crafty. Now that there's nothing important, let's chat for a while. How did you get here? I think you were originally here? June Moxie was very interested. What kind of place could give birth to such a strange tree? Could it be some other space? But then, I had only just awakened my spiritual sense. I didn't know how to speak, and I didn't know how to imitate sounds. Lord Holy Tree's face that was full of tree roots revealed an extremely depressed expression. That day, a black-clothed man suddenly came to my hometown. He circled around the forest once, and for some reason, he took a fancy to me. I also don't know where my hometown is. Later, I found out that this man in black had a very grand name, Nine Nether First Young Master. The Lord Holy Tree sighed and said he didn't care whether I agreed or not. Without another word, he pulled me out. Pulled you out? How thick were you back then? June Moxie was a little shocked. At that time, this holy tree seemed to have already gained sentience. How could a tree with sentience gain sentience in such a short time? It should take at least 1,000 or 2,000 years, right? A tree that had been growing for 1,000 or 2,000 years was pulled out with just one hand. As for Lord Holy Tree's request for his opinion, June Moxie pretended not to hear it. In this world, who in the world would ask a tree if it agreed or not when they were moving it? That was either a retard or a retard. The first young master didn't seem to be either of the two. Back then, I was definitely thinner than I am now, much thinner. I was about as thick as 7 or 8 people hugging together. The Lord Holy Tree was a little embarrassed. A tree as thick as 7 or 8 people hugging together? One person pulled it out with one hand? Are you serious? June Dashao's eyes widened a little. What kind of strength was that? Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? Of course it's true. At that time he only used one hand. Lord Holy Tree let out a long sigh. Because the first young master discovered that I grew the straightest, he took a liking to this holy tree at first glance. June Moxie rolled his eyes, speechless. What kind of choice was this? It was too unconventional. Then I came here and planted my roots here. The Nine Nether First Young Master even personally gave me a name. The Lord Holy Tree said. He said, "You're standing so straight, as if you've committed a crime and been punished to stand. From today onwards, you'll be called a tree that's being punished to stand." A tree that's being punished to stand, what a creative name. June Moxie's mouth twitched. This Nine Nether First Young Master really had some humorous cells. In this world, which tree wasn't standing? Could it be that they were all being punished to stand? Actually, I didn't commit a crime, and I've never committed a crime. Naturally, I'm not being punished to stand. The Lord Holy Tree explained innocently. Actually, I also want to lie down. But I can't. You actually want to lie down? Do you want me to give you a bed? June Moxie's mouth twitched again. I've been completely defeated. Even the tree wants to lie down. Alright, let's not waste time talking nonsense. I'm in a hurry. That kind of growth energy that you want, do you want me to give it to you in one go and let you slowly digest it on your own? Or do you want me to directly digest it for you? June Emosia completely lost interest in talking nonsense with this pure holy tree. The Lord Holy Tree was obviously a little hesitant. It hesitated for a while, as if it still couldn't make up its mind. But the ecstasy in its eyes couldn't be concealed. It really didn't expect that such an unreasonable person would actually keep his promise. It was so happy that it almost laughed out loud. If I were to help you digest it, the benefits you'd gain would be apparent very quickly. Even if the effects were immediate, it wouldn't be surprising. June Emosia said. If you were to slowly absorb it bit by bit, it might be able to resolve a huge crisis for you when you need it, June Moxie explained clearly. These two plans have their own merits. I've already given you the directions, but it's still up to you to decide which one to choose. The Lord Holy Tree thought for a long time, and finally gritted its teeth. I'll choose to digest it slowly myself. To him, a few years of growth energy was no longer important, because he didn't have a large amount of blood essence to support it, and the goal he wanted to achieve before was already gone. Maybe he would have to start all over again. However, young Master June had just mentioned that the second plan might be able to resolve one of his greatest dangers. This caused his heart to stir. The tempering of the world's wind and frost, as well as the merciless passage of time. Perhaps, when he truly transformed into a human, that terrifying lightning tribulation. So the Lord Holy Tree immediately chose the second plan, which was to let himself digest it slowly to achieve the most perfect effect. In the long run, it was more beneficial. Alright, I'm going to start. Get ready to accept it. June Moxie didn't hesitate. He stretched out his left hand, and a ball of emerald green light slowly formed in his palm, gradually growing to the size of a soccer ball. The Lord Holy Tree looked at the emerald green light of life again, and couldn't help but start to drool. Slowly, June Emosia condensed this ball of light to the size of a soccer ball. Then he stopped. Then he used the art of unlocking heaven's fortune to envelop the ball of light. This was equivalent to a layer of milky white protective film around this green ball of light. When you want to use the power of the wood element, you just need to use a thin tree root to poke through this film, and then you can use as much as you want. If you don't want to use it all, you can control the spiritual energy to seal this gap again. If you preserve it carefully, it should be able to be stored indefinitely. June Moxie explained in detail how to use it. Today's harvest was not small, and June Moxie naturally wouldn't be too stingy. Although this tree was a little spineless, but it was still very honest and didn't have any tricks up its sleeve. Since it was so kind to him, June Moxie naturally wouldn't be stingy. Thank you, thank you. This time, I really want to thank you. The Lord Holy Tree kept the ball of green light as if it was a treasure, and was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes. He never thought that the other party would take the initiative to give him so much of the power of growth. This one was much bigger than the one he used to tempt him. Furthermore, it was much purer, and the power of growth was naturally more vigorous. It could be said that it had greatly exceeded his expectations. It seemed that he had already given up on the idea that the other party would really keep his promise and give him the power of life. It would be good enough if the other party didn't kill him. Based on the strength of growth that he had obtained, if he used it properly, he could completely replenish the life essence blood within a short period of time. It might even bring him great benefits. As for the spiritual energy that wrapped around the strength of life, it was a mystical energy that the Holy Tree had never seen before. Although it was minuscule in quantity, it was enough to open a brand new door for him. In fact, in this world, other than Jun Dashao himself, only Mei Shuiyan had the opportunity to obtain the power of creation in the form of a physical object. For the Holy Tree, although it had suffered a great loss today, it would have an unimaginable impact on its future. But this fellow was too honest to actually say this time is the real thank you, which meant that all the previous thanks were fake. June Moxie laughed, but didn't mind. With his behavior just now, if the other party still wanted to sincerely thank him, then that person could only be a retard or an idiot. Dashao carefully put Qian Sun's body into the Hongjun pagoda and waved goodbye. Now, it could be said that he was somewhat anxious to return home. The Lord Holy Tree actually sent Jun Moxie to the door reluctantly after obtaining such a great benefit. Suddenly, he tugged at his sleeve and said, Sir, can you help me pass a message to these juniors in the Misty Mansion? What message? Jun Moxie turned around and looked at him. Tell them, don't send anyone to get the compatibility. Only one person in 100 years, I'm about to break down. The Lord Holy Tree seemed to be on the verge of breaking down as he said, if there's really no shortage of people here, ask them to send someone who can live a little longer. Oh, although I'm just a tree that's being punished, I already have human feelings. But they, on average, change a person every 200 or 300 years. At that time, I'd just gotten familiar with the previous person, and before I could get to know him better, that person changed. This feeling is too uncomfortable. Chapter 1045. Jun Moxie suddenly understood, and a heartfelt sympathy rose in his heart. In this space, the Holy Tree was the only living being with intelligence. When the people who came to Misty Mansion first arrived, they all treated the Holy Tree with the respect of a god. And at that time, the Holy Tree was at its most unhappy after losing an old friend. After a few hundred years, when they finally got to know each other, this person's lifespan was almost up, and he was about to die. If it was a human being, they would have gone crazy. It seemed like this tree had been suffering for almost 10,000 years, at least 40 to 50 times of the same painful experience. No wonder his emotions were so unstable now, as if he was going through menopause. It was no wonder. It was like a bride who had married 40 to 50 husbands, but all of them died prematurely. I will help you pass the message. Jun Moxie nodded cautiously. Thank you. When he sent Jun Moxie away, the Lord Holy Tree was really reluctant to part with him. With a sudden sound, Jun Moxie was ejected. Behind him, the leaves of the Rainbow Holy Tree rustled, and the thick trunk also shook slightly. Although they hadn't known each other for a long time, it was the first time in the Lord Holy Tree's life that the tit-for-tat feeling just now. Especially when it received such a great benefit from Jun Moxie. Of course, it had sacrificed a lot too. The pure and childlike feelings of the Lord Holy Tree actually couldn't accept Jun Dashao's sudden departure. That rustling sound of leaves was clearly sobbing. Then, a gust of wind rose, and the Rainbow Holy Tree's towering figure suddenly disappeared completely in an instant. Jun Yi. Not far away, Miao Xiao Miao's ecstatic cry could be heard. Then, a slim figure flew over like a swallow, and hugged Jun Moxie tightly in the blink of an eye. She hugged him so hard that it was as if their bodies were going to fuse together. Miao Xiao Miao cried and laughed. Suddenly, tears streamed down her face, and she clung tightly to Jun Moxie's chest, sobbing. The tears that had been held back for a long time immediately soaked the front of Jun Moxie's shirt. These were not only tears of fear, but also tears of lingering fear, tears of joy, tears of happiness. Although it had only been half a day since she separated from Jun Moxie, this half a day felt as long as a few centuries to Miao Xiao Miao. There were many times when Miao Xiao Miao was on the verge of despair. This loneliness of waiting was torture for a teenage girl. If it wasn't for her firm belief that Jun Moxie would definitely return, Miao Xiao Miao might have collapsed long ago. Now, Jun Moxie had actually returned safe and sound. How could she not be overjoyed? Don't worry. I'm fine, I'm very well. Jun Moxie gently patted the back of the beauty in his arms, and comforted her softly. From afar, Miao Huanyu looked silently at the two of them hugging each other tightly. His expression was one of great comfort. Although the Holy Tree had not chosen a successor this time, the fact that his daughter had someone to rely on for the rest of her life was the happiest thing for a father. Compared to this, everything else was no longer important. The sky gradually darkened, and it was time to leave the spiritual herbal gardens. The three of them walked slowly to the entrance of the spiritual herbal gardens. Miao Jingyun and the rest were already waiting here. Seeing that the three of them had returned, they could not wait to ask about the matter of the inheritance. Miao Huanyu sighed and recounted what had happened. Everyone was greatly disappointed. But Jun Moxie quickly stood up and told them about the holy tree's final request. Everyone fell into deep thought. Even humans with short lifespans would find it hard to accept the separation of life and death. What's more, a tree with intelligence and a long lifespan. I believe that to him, this is undoubtedly a great torment. Furthermore, it's a painful experience that's like a cycle of history. You guys are only concerned about the benefits of the Misty Mansion, but you've never considered the feelings of the holy tree. This is a very bad plan. Jun Moxie's words were very direct, and even very unreasonable. However, his words caused everyone present to fall silent. Jun Moxie naturally would not convey the exact words. Instead, he changed it slightly, and it became, the holy tree hopes that the current owner of the spiritual herbal gardens, Miao Huanyu, can continue to be the owner for a long time. In this way, the stability of the Miao family's authority was basically set in stone. This was equivalent to Jun Moxie doing the Miao family a huge favor. Choosing a replacement is a troublesome matter to begin with. How could we not wish for someone to continue to be the owner? It's a pity that Huan Yu's physique is simply too weak. Right now, he's only at Shen Xian's level. Even if he wishes for a long time, how long can he really last? Miao Jingyun furrowed his brows and said, "If that's not the case, why would we let the holy tree choose a suitable person in such a short time? On this point, the Lord Holy Tree has already considered it. He asked me to bring something out for Uncle Miao." Jun Moxie gritted his teeth. Even if it was for the sake of Miao Xiao Miao, he absolutely could not let the Miao family's authority fall into the hands of others. Jun Moxie stretched his hand into his robes, as if he was retrieving something. But in reality, he was plucking a bunch of 7-colored holy fruits from the Hongjun Pagoda. At the same time, he converted the 3 Heaven Extremes pills into the purest Xiantian spiritual qi and infused it into the fruit. After that, he cut a small portion of the exquisite lotus and infused it in as well, using the power of wood to balance it. By the time he reached out, there was already a bunch of 7-colored holy fruits in his hands. Every single one of them was the size of a ripe peach. It was actually more than twice the size of the 7-colored holy fruits in the Misty Mansion. Furthermore, it was emanating a dense mist, and one could tell that it was not an ordinary fruit. This is a good item that the Lord Holy Tree asked me to bring out. It's a bunch of heaven-grade 7-colored holy fruits that can only be cultivated every 5,000 years. After eating this kind of heaven-grade holy fruit, Uncle Miao will gain 1,000 years of cultivation and 1,000 years of lifespan without any side effects. 1,000 years of cultivation and 1,000 years of lifespan. It seemed like Jun Moxie was exaggerating a little. Just the 7-colored holy fruits that had just been cultivated was already better than the bunch of fruits that the Misty Mansion had given to Dashao previously. And now, there was also the exquisite lotus. These 2 wonderful fruits were cultivated in the world of the Hongjun Pagoda, and were many times more valuable than the original top-grade items. To put it bluntly, just the combined effect of these 2 items could at least increase a person's cultivation and lifespan by 1,000 years. And this was only the effect of the holy fruits and the exquisite lotus. This was not even counting the increase in lifespan brought about by the advancement of Xian cultivation. In addition, there were the 3 Heaven Extremes pills, which could increase a total of 180 years of pure Xian qi. It was enough for Miao Huanyu to advance from Shen Xian to the peak of the Supreme Realm. The effects of these 2 sets of spirit fruits were also enough for him to advance from the peak of the Supreme Realm all the way to the 4th level of the Venerable Realm. There was even a chance for him to advance to the Saint Realm. If everything went smoothly, Miao Huanyu's lifespan would increase to almost 1,000 years due to the advancement of his Xian cultivation. In addition to the additional 1,000 years from the holy fruits. That would be almost a full 2,000 years of lifespan. Everyone was dumbfounded. There was actually such a heaven-defying item in this world. In an instant, all the old men's breathing quickened. I repeat, this is something that the Lord Holy Tree had specially designated for Uncle Miao. Jun Moxie furrowed his brows. It seemed like there was something wrong with these old men's expressions. Could it be that they, Nonsense, who doesn't know that it's for Huan Yu? This old man and the others are just excited. Do you really think we can snatch it? To put it bluntly, even if we want to snatch it, can you stop us? Do you have to repeatedly say that it's for your father-in-law from the Lord Holy Tree? One of the venerables roared angrily. The other old men also chuckled awkwardly. Don't be fooled by their words. In truth, they were really tempted. After all, this was a heaven-defying treasure that could increase one's lifespan and cultivation by 1,000 years. But when they heard that this was a gift from the holy tree to the spiritual herbal garden lord, none of them dared to snatch it even if they had the guts to do so. This was a heavenly grade 7-colored holy fruit that only appeared once every 5,000 years. Who would dare to snatch it? If they angered the Lord Holy Tree and caused him to go on strike, what would they do then? Wouldn't the spiritual herbal gardens only exist in name then? Besides, the Holy Tree had given this heaven-defying treasure to Mo Junyi. Mo Junyi could have swallowed it for himself, but he did not keep it to himself. What kind of breadth of mind was that? If he and the others had other thoughts, wouldn't they be worse than beasts? Couldn't they even compare to a junior? Miao Jingyun's old face was flushed red with excitement, and even his white beard was trembling. Amongst everyone present, this old man was the happiest. His degree of joy was even above Miao Huanyu himself. After all, Miao Huanyu was his son. A father and son's hearts were connected. His son's health had always been a huge worry for Miao Jingyun. But now, this problem had been resolved just like that. 2,000 years ago, it was too sufficient. Miao Xiao Miao was even happier, jumping and laughing excitedly. She pulled her father's hand and spun around in circles, like an innocent little girl. She no longer knew how to vent the joy in her heart. Right? The Lord Holy Tree had mentioned before that although there are no side effects from the heavenly grade holy fruit, the effects are too heaven-defying. With the heavenly Tao's support, there will definitely be a series of heavenly tribulations. It's best to find a place that can block out the heavenly tribulations and come out to face the heavenly tribulation after you've completely digested the medicinal energy. That way, there will be no mistakes. Jun Moxie smiled lightly and reminded. It seemed like Miao Xiao Miao had learned her lesson from the previous time. It was best not to let it happen again. Right. The Lord Holy Tree is still the most thoughtful one. This old man naturally has a way to deal with this matter. Today is truly a joyous occasion. Miao Jingyun laughed heartily, stroking his beard with a smug look on his face. This kind of arrogant and despicable expression caused all the other experts who had entered to feel sour in their hearts. What joyous occasion! This is indeed a joyous occasion for your Miao family, but we didn't get anything at all. Not only did we not get anything this time, we might not even be able to look forward to it for the next 800 to 1,000 years. We can only drool with greed. Is this joyous occasion?